to the Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
We're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy
Snowboard.
All right, here we go again. We are back at the booth here at the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. Now, first things first, Buds, how we doing?
So good, my dog.
Love hearing that. To my left, we have Ali Goulet in the booth. Ali, how we doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty good, my dogs.
Love that. Now, for our listeners that don't know who Ali is, was a pro snowboarder for a long time. Career goes back from the early 90s all the way through 2004. He's an avid car enthusiast. He's debatably inventor of the Misty Flip. He's got countless covers, interviews, great video parts, a true pioneer for our sport. But first things first, I think we should talk air horn. I heard, he was just briefing us on the air horn. It sounds like we're going to be throwing a lot of air horns out here, Ollie. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like the selector needs to be on point with the air horns. They need to be dropped appropriately in the cut. So, sometimes you got to give a little direction.
I like that you thought about it before you came on the show, like how the air horns are going to be delivered and to who and when.
He's like, just be ready for that air horn button. We're going to be smashing it.
Right, yeah, smash that air horn on pretty much everyone I mentioned, just like that, unless they're insignificant.
All right, well, let's get started here. Where'd you grow up originally, and how'd you get into snowboarding, Ollie?
Right, yeah, so this is like the old story. I love telling the story. Basically, I grew up in Vermont and lived close to Sugarbush, which is a ski resort there in Vermont. It has Sugarbush North, Sugarbush South, close to Mad River Glen. It's like the Sugarbush Valley. So I was into skateboarding, as most young kids are in the 80s. I started when I was like 9, and snowboarding started sort of showing itself. And by 11, I was just into it because I was a ski racer too, actually, because we were right there in the Mad River Valley. They had Green Mountain Valley, GMVS, Green Mountain Valley School. And it was a ski racing school. So we had like Olympians coming out of there. And so before we snowboarded, my buddies and I banged gates. We were out there running the slalom, like with the protection. And so as soon as snowboards came on the scene, we were like, this is what we want to do. We'd touched a few skis back then, but nothing really looked like snowboarding. So that's like, that the whole snowboarding or skateboarding was the impetus to the snowboarding. And that's really what, I guess, guided my snowboarding. And most people's snowboarding, I would imagine, like if you have that skate influence and, you're looking to the snowboarders, but I'm looking to the skaters too for that style that I want to bring. Not that I had any style when I first started snowboarding. So yeah, Vermont. And it actually turned out to be like a pretty hot spot. So, people that came out of my town were like Seth Miller, Seth Neary. Those guys are significant.
Well, I was going to group them all into one air horn. I wasn't going to go. I was waiting. I was going to do a cumulative air horn on that.
Right. I was like, well, those guys are definitely significant.
No, we got to go air horns on the lot of them. So that was just 2. And then we had, of course, Lucas Huffman and Jesse Huffman who came out of there. Myself, there was Jason King who had some light shine. He's a super style god. Obviously there was, guys before us too that were really influential, like Jeff Brushy. Todd Richards was, I think he's Massachusetts or New Hampshire.
He's Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts.
Be clear about that.
Which would you say was more influential, Massachusetts or Vermont?
Obviously, Massachusetts is a stupid question.
Well, I mean, in my time, Massachusetts wasn't doing shit. So it was all.
They didn't even really.
It was all Vermont at that time.
They weren't even on the map, pretty much.
No.
I mean, Todd was driving to Vermont.
But that that was a different time.
Yeah.
Not to take any shine off of Massachusetts.
I mean, we can fire this debate up. I mean, we got Big Mountain Jeremy Jones, we got Scott Stevens, we got Todd Richards. The list goes on forever.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean the list is long. But that little time zone, let's say 90, 91. Anyway, so Vermont was popping, and that's where we were digging our half pipes. We had the Green Mountain series to chase, which was, half pipe, slalom, giant slalom competitions, because that's what you did back in those days. Like, you'd have like 3 half pipe events, and the rest of them were like slalom, giant slalom, and I'm like out there in my tights with my balls all froze up, just wondering like, why don't I just do the half pipe? Anyway, so that's like the
They kind of made
early
you
scenes.
do all that, right? In early days of Green Mountain Series.
Yeah, I don't think it was required. Like, you could have just cherry picked the half pipe, but we were on this thing called the Clearwater Snowboard Team, and that actually had Seth and Lucas and Jesse. We were all on that team, and I want to say it was Jenny Hahn, who was a Burton rider. She was like head of the snowboard ski school at Sugarbush, and she was also coaching us for this Mad River snowboard team. Air horn for Jenny Hahn. But so that was just like, we were the team. We were going to go to these events, and then it just took you a while to like think it through. You're like, oh, we're going to go to the events, and then you're like, oh, well, as much as giant slalom and slalom's cool, like, I don't want to do that. Anyway,
So let's do a Patreon question now that we're talking about, or you were talking about the Mad River Valley. This is from Travis Kerr. Have to ask about the parking lot confrontation resulting in the snowboarder ban at Mad River Glen. Rumor is you were in the mix. A group of snowboarders confronted a lady that ran Mad River in the old Grand Union parking lot. Snowboarding has been banned ever since. Any truth to this?
I mean, it's like any great tale. It's a mix of some truth and some, folklore. But yeah, so there's actually a video, and I had sent Chris a link to this.
I was just wondering if you guys were ever going to allow like snowboarding up there.
No.
Why not?
The mountain can't take it.
For a reason.
The Vermont mountains are very, very, very fragile. We get 1 inch of topsoil every 5,000 years, and your snowboards are just too heavy to go into our mountains.
The terrain really doesn't.
Terrain really
But
can't right for it.
it's been proven now, though, through many extension ports, which I hope that
It's
you'll
been proven
see
that it works on snowmaking, but we don't.
that they
have
don't
snowmaking.
know that they do not take off more snow than skis.
Yes,
Well,
they do.
we're
They
not in a
don't.
position
There's no
to-
possible way. You have
Well,
one edge.
we're a ski area anyway, so forget snowboarding.
But so the
I watched
videos, it's on my YouTube, and I forgot what it's called. It's called like Snowboarding in Vermont and Snowboarding. It might actually be called Liquor and the Timber Ridge video, because that's what I called them, Liquor, and one was a Timber Ridge video. But anyway, enough about that. Back to the confrontation. So I was holding the camera, and my friend Eric Kurth, who was like part of our whole crew, air horn for Eric Kurth, of course. He actually is the one speaking, but we just randomly ran into Betsy Pratt, who was like, I don't know if she's like the primary owner of Mad River Glen or whatever. Exactly. Gunshots. And she was just anti-snowboarding, but the lyrics it drops in this video are insane. Like, you have to actually go watch this, because she talks about Vermont topsoil. We get like a couple inches of topsoil every 5,000 years, and your snowboards are too heavy to go into our mountain. Because there was this whole thing back in the day that, especially on the East Coast, they thought this one big edge, you're just buttering off all the good snow that we blew. And so that was like one of the things that skiers and snowmaking would hate on, I guess. You guys are pushing all the snow off the mountain. But anyway, so she had this crazy stuff to say. And Eric was he's really kind of nice about it. And he's like, no, I hope you understand that it's like, we've only got one edge. You got 2 edges on your skis. Like, how is this possible? And they're like, oh, go build your own resort. But so that confrontation itself was, I think at that time they'd already banned snowboarding. Another weird thing about this is Mad River Glen is actually the first place I ever snowboarded. We had like this stony guy that lived with my mom. He was a roommate. He wasn't like my mom's boyfriend. She rented out the room, but he worked at the repair spot at Mad River Glen on Tuesdays. Like the first Tuesday or something would be like town hall day. You'd get to go off school and you could snowboard at Mad River Glen on the Bunny Hill. So I rode a winter stick at Mad River Glen on the Bunny Hill, which is kind of like, now they don't even allow snowboarding. But so back to the whole banning thing. there was that incident in the parking lot, but apparently, I think it was the year after I moved out of Vermont and I made my way west to try to be a pro. Jason King, I think it was, and Eric Kurth again, and maybe someone else had gone to Mad River for like confrontation, and maybe they dropped some F-bombs and just solidified the fact that Mad River will be like forever one of those handful of resorts that only allow skiing. And to those resorts, I'm like, have it, like enjoy it. Like I don't get this whole
days, right?
I don't get this whole thing with Alta and like trying to sue to get on the property. Like this almost comes back to what the Patreon thing I was talking about with like social media and people getting to hate and whatever. This is just a different version where people are like, let me on this mountain, and they're so angry about it. I'm like, I'm just going to go somewhere else and enjoy myself where I'm wanted. You know, you can keep Alta.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the ski or snowboard beef's fun too. It's kind of fun that it still exists and they still got the
There's what, like 4 resorts nowadays or something?
Yeah, and the beef is real.
Mm-hmm. And they don't like us, and it's actually I enjoy that.
Yeah.
The fact that it feels good, because if that's our biggest problem, that we're not allowed on a fucking couple acres of land, then we got bigger problems than that.
It's not very inclusive of them though, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you should be inclusive, but I don't think it's something.
Funny how
I don't think everyone has to be inclusive. Like, don't be a dick outwardly exclusive, but like, I don't know, Deer Valley, you want to ski around with no hat on and some sunglasses, that's your deal.
It's funny that Alta gets all the heat about it, and Deer Valley kind of.
Well, it's because Alta's got the terrain that we actually want to go on.
Nobody really cares about Deer Valley.
Yeah,
people, Alta skiers will tell you it's no good for snowboarders.
Too much traversing.
They'll even say it doesn't even work up there, and it's not good for the topsoil.
It's not good for the topsoil. It's bad for the topsoil.
Yeah,
I guess they let a snowboarder on a few years ago. The topsoil was ruined.
Yeah,
That's
ruined.
what I heard. Yeah.
Still ruined to this day.
I mean, I wonder how many thousands of years it takes for us to get the topsoil up there.
And all the snow was buttered off too. They had to close the resort after.
Yeah, seriously, dude, that was the
Shut
stuff
down
we
the
used to
resort in
live.
February.
I mean, you remember like having to get certified to go on the hill. And,
charging us an extra $20 or
people
whatever.
shouting knuckle dragger at you, like I'm like, bro, I put my hand down. Palm
Knuckle
dragger.
dragger.
Yeah, patty kick it.
Well, I want to talk about your guys' relationship blossoming, because you guys spent a lot of time together in the early days, right?
Good word, blossom.
Yeah.
Well played, buds.
Yeah, you think that's funny?
It's a hat reference potentially right now. But anyway, continue, buds.
Maybe Paul can throw a little side by side up for us. Anyways, yeah.
So I listened to Ethan's. He's had a few potties, and I did listen to actually the one. I won't mention the name of the other cast, but I did, and I watched that one and this one, and I was listening for our little story. But I'll tell my version, which was basically like it was a rainy day in March, maybe could have been January, because those are the best January days back east, or rainy days. And I don't know if it was some part of the resort was closed for fog or something, but essentially I was riding by myself, as I recall, and I don't know if I rode the lift up with Ethan or what, but we were like, oh, let's just session this bench. We sessioned this bench because that's what you did back in 92. And we just hit it off. And then, I don't know, we exchanged numbers.
It would have been 92, huh?
Yeah, 92, right? We went to a few contests, and then summer rolled around. I had graduated that year. I forgot. You graduated early, or you?
I graduated a half year early.
Yeah. So 90 would have been fall of 93 after I'd saved up a little coin. I pushed my way out. My mom didn't drop me. She handed me off to this guy who was going to college in Crested Butte, who was a family friend, and I was going to get dropped off in Breckenridge. That was the hot spot, and that's where you need to go. So started driving across the country, talked to my mom. She was like, oh, Ethan called, and he said that he's going to move out that direction, and his brother-in-law, Mark Girardi, is already out there.
Stepbrother.
Stepbrother, there you go. Stepbrothers, they deserve air horns. Mark Girardi. So all this weird stuff gelled with Ethan, and it was like universe just kind of meshing. And I would say this has been kind of how my life goes. Like I I don't know, universe just meshes. I'm like on my way to Breckenridge, just gonna get dropped off. Now I got a spot to chill. Ethan comes out. He comes out with like J1 in the low, or J3 actually, J3. Jason Damaris in the low S10. He had an S10 with a bunch of speakers in the back or something. So not appropriate for like moving a few guys from Breckenridge to Vail, where we actually ended up moving. We had to move to Vail because we couldn't find any place to live. Like we could find a job in Breck, but the living was like and so we were like, well, let's look in Vail, which was just over the pass, about 15, 20 minutes. And we all collectively moved there. I remember like we'd got the spot. Shit was mad cheap back then. It was $800 for a 2-bedroom condo in Avon, right outside of Vail. And we got that spot with Mark Girardi. It was Ethan and I, Jay Damaris, and did Squid came out with us?
Matty L was with us.
Matty L was with us.
We had like 8 people or something in a 2-bedroom, I want to say.
Yeah, so it
make it affordable.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was dumb cheap. Like at one point, we had people up on couches and stuff, and it was like $100-something a month for the rent with utilities. But
I wonder what that rent is now over there by Vail.
Oh, so much right there in one of those condos, I bet.
$7,000 a month.
Yeah, it's probably like $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
You have to pay $1,000 per person now to live 8 people in a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, I don't know if they would allow that. But so, yeah, man, that's just the beginning of our path even, because then when we moved into that spot, that's when, we're living so deep. Ethan and I actually shared a bed at that point. It was like a queen size, and we built like a little 4x8 sheet.
We talking nocturnal emissions or what?
Emissions?
No,
no.
There was 3 of us too, because we built a little thing on the bottom too, where Matty L slept.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Yeah. So there was 3 because we built a platform over our feet that was like raised up maybe about a foot. Matty L slept there, and I think Ethan had records. He liked to DJ. Matty L was big DJ out of Burlington, which had a crazy DJ scene in general. And I was into DJing, influenced from the whole Burlington scene. But so we're in this little room in this condo, but we had like this walk-through closet that was 2-sided walk-through into the bathroom in our little bedroom. So in the walk-through closet, we put the turntables and the records. And so we had like this bathroom, DJ booth, records, sleep zone. And, many, many hours were spent like,
I think we even had some linoleum in the family room for some breakdancing. Go this year. We had 40s.
Dude, yeah,
it's good times back then.
So at one point,
clean living.
We had BDP on the wall in Christmas lights. It was the breakdance posse. We got into breakdancing for a minute. We all went over to Walmart. We got like knee pads and some jumpsuits, and we were breakdancing on linoleum in between the 4 couches that were in the living room that everyone slept on. Yeah.
Can we recreate this scene?
Yes,
I'd like to see both. I'd like to see that.
Dude, it was so sick.
Great visuals of Buds just going.
Good breakdancing going down too. Matty L was kind of nice with it.
Well, let's transition back into real quick with snowboard stuff. How'd you get sponsored? Were you sponsored at this time, and who was your first brand that sponsored you?
Right. Yeah. So I was riding for Original Sin, and they were like this super rad company that was an offshoot of Dina Star, so some people didn't like that. But it was like a separate entity. And Original Sin was like way ahead of their time with graphics and shapes, and some really amazing people worked there. Like it was actually this guy, Dan Sullivan, who brought me in. He was, Dan was a ski school instructor. I actually ski school instructed or snowboard instructed at Sugarbush when I was in my teens and with Dan. And then he became this rep for this brand that was going to happen, which was Original Sin. And so they were my first sponsor. Dan went on to be a major player in Rome Snowboards, and Chris Mask, who was another key figure at Original Sin, he went on to work, I think, he was doing red stuff for Burton. And then you had Herb George. Herb George was like the creative head. He's over at Globe now. So all those guys, shit. Now that I'm thinking about it, we had George Cavallo too, he's at 686 now, I think. And he was, one time photo editor at Snowboarder magazine. So the crew was crazy at Original Sin, and like I was saying, they were kind of ahead of their time. Where we were, I say we, but it was Herb that brought in like Thomas Campbell, Phil Frost, Dave Aaron, these skateboard artists that were doing stuff in New York for Zoo York and other cool brands, and he brought those guys in onto our stuff. But it wasn't well received. Like, it didn't blow up. But then a few years later, it seemed like other brands started doing that stuff. But so, yeah, Original Sin was like the first sponsor, and they were the ones that were like, you should, move out to Breckenridge. They gave me a little bit of support. It wasn't like I had any money at that time. Like, I think I had $1,500 that I'd saved up over the summer before I moved out, kind of alongside Ethan. But I did have that little sponsor. I think they ended up flowing Ethan boards too for a bit. So we're kind of like
first board sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah, bud.
First close threat. Like, the guy I'm sleeping next to is also riding for my board company that I'm riding for.
We used to sleep together.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask because, talking to Mikey LeBlanc, doing my research, talking to some people, a lot of people were bringing up the Misty Flip.
Right.
Now, rumor has it that you are the inventor of the Misty Flip.
Right, yeah. So, I guess it's controversial, but that's my trick. Well, you know how it is. It's like, I don't know. Like, who's ever been the first one to actually really do something? Sure, some people are like, oh, I documented this. This is the first time it's ever been done. But I don't know. The universe is like got this whole vibe thing where it's like, someone else probably felt that vibe at one time or another. But so I'm not going to claim that I invented it, but essentially I wasn't aware that Peter was corking sevens, Peter Line, out in the Northwest. The only thing I was aware of was that apparently Stevie Alters, who should get a really big air horn, Stevie Alters was doing these cork back threes. And I was filming with Whitey at the time, and he was like, Stevie's doing these cork back threes. Maybe you should try one. And just the way I did it, how much I tucked it, just kind of went 5 right away. And then it was actually where the name came from is that Whitey had a sequence. It went into Blunt magazine, and no one was doing that. So they're like, well, what do you call it? And I'm like, oh, well, what am I going to call it? I'm not going to call it like a Goulet flip or something. And, coming from Vermont and the whole VTSP crew, they used Misty a lot for stuff that was like cool and different sort of. So I'm like, oh, we'll call it the Misty Flip. And that's like basically how it goes. It's like Rippy Flip, Chicane, any other flip that someone's done where it looked a little different than something else that someone's done. And then they called it something.
Well, it's
That's
like you were the
telephone
first
game.
one maybe that had it documented.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Doing like taking a McTwist to the free riding. And so it was different, I guess. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is for me. Like, I don't know. I've never claimed to invent it. I wasn't like, I'm going to set out to make a trick and this is going to be my shit. And then anyway, the only people that used the name Misty Flip up until like 5 years ago was like rollerbladers and skiers who weren't even Misty flipping, because you can't Misty flip on something where you're going like in a straight line. You have to be standing like a skateboard or a snowboard to Misty flip. It can look the same.
Would the skiers have a Misty Flip?
Yeah, skiers were Misty flipping, rollerbladers were Misty flipping, scooter kids. Everyone was doing it except the snowboarders.
I still hear people call it Misties. I
Right.
still hear
Well,
it
it's coming
Misties.
back around now. I
Yep.
feel like in the last 5 years, people are like, oh, it's kind of Misty this or Misty that. And interestingly enough, I was watching one of the hundreds of podcasts you guys have, and it was with Trevor Graves, and he had the Misty Cam.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the Misty Cam comes from that same thing.
Yeah,
It's
same
like,
thing of Brushy.
Like
and
there
all
was,
those guys.
we had Sugarbush, we had the Misty Woods, because Brushy and those guys had like a condo up there, and so they would, go get Misty all over the place.
I'll tell you, Misty Flip, after hearing the story, great name.
That's a good name.
It's a great name. A lot of kind of bad names for tricks out there. But
There is.
For sure. Rippy Flip, bad.
It is just weird though. If you had all of a sudden, if in Blunt Mag you're all Goulet flip, that would have had a different. It
Smart
would
to
have
not-
hit differently.
Yeah, it'd be like some Andy McDonald shit.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, then
The ollie oop, you could have went that with ollie Goulet, but that wasn't your
Seriously.
move.
Yep, that would be the worst.
That would be the
I
worst.
did see you going ollie oop. I did see you in. I can't remember which video I was watching. A bunch of your old. I think Warriors.
Yeah.
You did a switch ollie oop McTwist.
Yeah, alley McTwist.
That was fucking sick. I don't know if people. That might have been a NBD at that point. Maybe no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many other people I saw doing alley oop switch McTwist for sure. Well, people just weren't doing that shit back then.
People weren't really calling NBDs back then either.
Right.
A lot of stuff was just an NBD maybe.
I want to talk about equipment back then because this is cool. I think that the boards that you guys were riding back then was nothing like it is today, and you happen to have that OSIN behind you.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd be stoked if you kind of broke down exactly how that thing was set up because it looks like a freaking Frankenstein binding there.
Right.
too.
Should I grab it and pull it over here?
Yeah,
or-
pull it over here.
okay.
Yeah.
Just dive under here.
Yeah.
I'm in frame here.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, so this thing is like this is baseless bindings, and it's this is like a retro version. So Tech 9 had baseless bindings back in the day, and I made these at Home Depot in like 2005 just for some novelty. There's actually a 94 OSIN with Thomas Campbell graphic, but you can see here, this is how we used to do it for just to get your stance, even whether you did baseless or not. If you wanted a nice wide stance, 22 or more, you had to do this T-bolt thing. So you basically you drill through, you countersink a little bit, and then you've got this, they used to call them sex bolts or T-bolts. You goes in from one side, male side goes in and pinches it all together, holds the binding onto the board. And this one's it's tons of fun because you feel like the ripples of the snow, and it's a cool, playful thing, but ultimately I think it just led to foot pain.
Yeah.
but yeah, this is
Baseless bindings.
This is what we had to deal with. I remember, man, I got the coolest new 1 of 5 sample of the new OSIN board and T-bolted up a 24-inch stance by mistake. I'm like, fuck.
Just too big stance.
You just got to T-bolt it down a little bit more and just let the snow come up through the holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever mount that thing and take it out for a spin these days?
I haven't in a while because this one, I want to say it's like base high, so it rides kind of crazy. But yeah, I would certainly, you throw a couple boards in the trunk and go up to Brighton or go
Take
up
a
to
lap or
Woodward,
two.
and yeah, especially at Woodward, you could just cut a couple laps, throw the board to the side, grab another one.
Yeah, that looks like a fun one. Like that, I look at that snowboard. You know, it's cool when you look at a board like that. Like that makes me want to go snowboard.
So
That shape and
this,
and
yeah,
everything's
see
fun.
the flat kick on the nose. It's a double flat kick, and it just is so fun. Like you could lock into backside tail slides on banks, where it's like you just hit that flat spot and you just actually tail slide, like just straight
Yeah,
at a 90, and it just locks in. Feels
you
super
see
fun.
a lot of the older videos. You see like nose blunts like on the snow that are vertical and tail scrapes where they're really steep with the steep nose and tail. And I just think that you don't see it done like that anymore with the way the
Right.
boards are made.
Right. Well, you almost can't with like the reverse camber stuff. You can't get back that far because you're in no man's land. You're just going over the back, right? So, but it just bends, and so everything just bends. But I don't know. I like camber.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and talk to you guys about Bubs Naturals. Now, what is Bubs Naturals? So they're a company that makes all kinds of products, but the one that I like the best is their collagen protein powder. Now, I like to take this, mix it in a smoothie. I take 2 scoops, throw it in a smoothie with some blueberries, banana, almond butter, some chia seeds, some oat milk. Mix it all up. You got yourself a great smoothie. And the thing that's great about it, with 2 scoops of collagen in there, you get 20 grams of protein. And as you get older, your body kind of loses its ability to synthesize this protein. So you got to get it in the system if you want to keep snowboarding when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. If you want to be 110 and still be able to make twist or just turn down the hill for that matter, you got to take care of your body. So that's what's cool about Bubs. It's a company that comes from the world of snowboarding. So, snowboarders for snowboarders here. And you're supporting a great brand. 10% of all of their profits go to charity. So if you want to take care of your body, head on over to bubsnaturals.com. Use promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off. Again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code BOMBHOLE for 20% off. I usually go through about 2 of these jugs a month if you're getting a lot down the gullet. So, again, bubsnaturals.com, promo code BOMBHOLE. Well, Ollie, I'd like to know how your career went from maybe just getting OSIN boards to just, I'm not going to say blossom again, but taking off. How did your career take off from kind of rep rider or flowing boards to, making a career?
Right. Yeah. So, again, kind of how I was saying before about universal stuff, just meshing. When we ended up in Vail, that was just the exact right spot to be. And, we met Adam Merriman and J2 and Ninja J and these guys that were already doing stuff. And they were linked up with photographers, and they were linked up with Whitey. And Whitey arguably is like the guy that made it happen for me, because he put me in his videos, and he, I think, got me my first clothing sponsor too. So that's where things started to just move quick. Like, we moved fall of the winter 93, 94 to Vail. And, by spring of 94, I was established with my goggle sponsor, my clothing, like everything was going kind of good. And I was filming with Whitey, and I had been in, I guess the first one I was in, he used to do like a 6-month project. So you'd have like a winter project for video, which is what Whitey did, of course. And I think it was Caffeine was the first one I was in. That kind of lined right up with like Misty Flip coming out in Blunt magazine and stuff. And then I was in almost every one after that, except for, I'm trying to remember. There was one I missed where I'd been injured, and then my style was whack, so I didn't get on that in that video. But that was when it was like every 6 month one, so it was kind of no big deal. But Vail was just the spot. And, Todd Richards and a bunch of heads were over in Breckenridge. When the half pipe would get cut, everyone would come over and it'd be big photo sessions. We were filming lots of lumber. Beaver Creek and Vail had just logs like crazy. And this, logs, as you probably heard from Ethan before, like it's this weird occurrence in that area of Colorado. It's not as prevalent in any other areas, or just where aspens are, and these big aspens bend over. And so all this stuff, was just there to shred right in Vail. And so work was getting done, and the career was moving forward. And so that brings us to like fall of 94. So, I've been out of the house about a year. Fall of 94, Original Sin was like, okay, we're going to give you $1,500 for the winter that you can do whatever you need to do with. And I was working at Subway, and my plan was like, I think I was going to make it till like November, and then I was going to quit for the winter and just snowboard and see how things went. And I don't know, maybe I got fed up of the tuna fingers or something from making too many 6 inches. But I quit early from Subway, maybe like late September, took that $1,500 and never looked back. Like, I think I bought a car from Ninja J for like half of that, and then the rest of it was gonna be divvied out over like rent and probably sell some boards or something. But
$100 a month, $1,500 can go a long way, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, back then, right, I think my monthly nut from like my house, my living zone and my food was, I want to say 125. No, 125 a month is crazy, but it was like $25 a week for food. Nothing.
It's $200 a month.
Dude, you were living cheap. I remember Ali would go get like chicken legs for the week or whatever, cook them all up at once, and just be focused on his snowboarding. Eat chicken legs every day.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what we were doing. It was all about snowboarding. Would scrounge change together from like, I don't know, anywhere.
You probably spent more money on beer than
or
food, probably.
Coffee. My favorite thing was to go to this place called was it the
Daily Grind?
No, the French. What was it? The French Cafe. And it was right by the gondola in Vail, and you could go there, and they would pour you like a soup size styrofoam of coffee, and you get that sugared up right, and then we would jump on the gondola and ride that thing up and start the day. And that was the most important thing, was some good coffee, hit the slopes, and then whatever else we did, you know, go wash some dishes, go to sleep, do it again. But I quit all that shit, in 94, and then the universe, I guess, took care of me until it was like 2005.
Yeah, it's a long career.
Yeah, it's pretty long. I mean,
It's a run. Yeah,
you look
great.
at some guys now, and like, you know, arguably you could say Mikey's still doing it. You know, he not necessarily a sponsored, paid athlete for that whole time, but
JP
now
had a
people
long
have,
stint.
JP maybe has got the longest in the world
Yep.
of careers. Yeah.
Yeah, JP and Jeremy probably, because Mikey took a lot of years in between off, where those guys just went hard the whole time, right?
Yeah. But yeah, 10 or 11 years for a pro snowboarder was good at my age.
I want to talk about that because I was watching all your parts when I was doing all this research, and it's interesting because you watch the early stuff, and it's like big ass stance, short board, baggy pants, and then your setup switched to like a little bit narrower stance, bigger board. It looked like, and I don't know. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I think actually what I was chasing actually is kind of what Holden achieved later. I just remember like in, I don't know, it was maybe 97 or something. I really liked the way Ninja J's style looked. He wore Sessions gear, and he's a little taller. It was maybe a little bit more tailored. And so it had this look like you weren't like squatting down. You weren't this like weeble wobble in oversized clothes anymore. And I was hunting for that. And what I did was I brought my stance in to 17 inches, which just seemed crazy, but
Pretty narrow.
It didn't change my shredding at all. Like I, tweaked the same. I just was a lot more narrow, had a lot more nose and tail. And then I, came back out because, during that time, like, you had like your JP, your Unink, your Jeremy Jones, pretty wide stance guys. And I'm at like 17. They're at like 22. But I don't know. I guess I was just chasing. I'm always kind of chasing a style. And that was trying to get the overall appearance of where, of myself to where I wanted it to be, I guess. Yeah.
Solid. I was curious about that. Glad we got into
Misguided
that.
though.
So you had
Misguided.
some.
Should have tailored my pants.
Oh, I love it. So going back, you had the Colorado years, kind of sharpening your teeth with the early Whitey Kingpin productions, getting your foot in a pro career, and then you eventually moved to Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Yeah, so that was 98 when I landed here in Salt Lake, and it was my girlfriend at the time had wanted to move to somewhere that was going to be more city. And obviously Salt Lake's like the only place you can be where you're actually in the city and the mountains are actually close. I don't care what you say about Denver or Seattle or Portland or something, or I don't know. Anyway, so we ended up here in Salt Lake, and again, it was weird. It was, again, super universal. Like I was here for a year, and then almost everyone from Vail came to Salt Lake. It was Mark Frank, Ethan Cole, like all the Vail crew, J2, everyone except for the old Vail heads like Merriman and the other guys that were they were panickers. But anyway, so we all moved here to Salt Lake, and Salt Lake was again the Mecca, right, where we were actually, Whitey had been here established. Brighton was going off, all the swimming pool, the diving board, the Ruffinator, the
MFM jump.
The MFM jump. That used
All
to
three
be
of
my
them.
jump. All three MFM jumps. That used to be my jumps.
Ollie Goulet jump, but then it turned into MFM jump.
MFM
Right.
came and took it.
And it was
took over
actually
from
the
you.
Misty jump before that.
Right. So much shit was just happening like side country, like crazy. And then of course handrails were hitting. And so I moved here to be close to the airport because I was traveling a lot in those few years when I was getting bigger in Vail. I was going to the airport all the time to fly out over 2 mountain passes. It's like driving from Vail over those passes to Denver is like a nightmare sometimes. But so that, that was the whole thing, was to be close to the airport. And I never left Salt Lake once I got here. Just slept in my bed. And the scene here was insane at that time. Like everyone was a pro snowboarder. There was like 5 snowboard, ski, pray for snow nights you'd go out to at the bar, and 200 people everywhere. And we had the best house parties. And Yeah, but we also snowboarded, and this was that spot, and so, and then I've stayed here ever since. Obviously, like, I mean, the listeners don't know, but I'm like right up the road from the bomb hole. My wife's always giving me shit because I'm always lingering around here because it's like 5 minutes down the highway when I can find it. I don't overshoot the exit.
Well, I wanted to go back talking about tricks. I want to get into trick nerd stuff because this is fun to me to talk tricks. Because going back, funny, as a kid, I would watch your parts and stuff like that. And I was on the East Coast, so I was more focused on the rails. And it's so wild to watch the stuff that stuck out to me now, revisiting how well-rounded you guys were. You guys are jumping off cliffs. You're doing big chicanes. You're doing switchback threes and holding the grab. And, like, especially the early, that was the one thing that stuck out was, like, in the early days, you were the first people I'd see go do a switchback three and, like, really tweak with your head and yank onto the grab. And, dude, you had, you know, backside rodeo sevens, you know, like all kinds of these incredible tricks that have aged well, I'll say. What was the thought on being like an all-terrain vehicle and just shredding everything in front of you?
Right. I mean, I think that just comes from the era that we grew up in, which is just that, you know, we came from like Craig Kelly's and, you know, Jeff Brushy's were more specialized, or like Sean Palmer's, you know, guys that that's what we did was we rode everything. And I think that's a little bit weird now, you know, how specialized some people are. Cause I'm like, what do you mean you're going to graduate to the backcountry? Or like, I get it, cause the level's super high, but at the same time, I mean, everyone shreds everything ultimately. Like the backcountry slayers, maybe they don't touch metal cause they're scared, but, you know, metal slayers touch backcountry. But anyway, yeah, so that just kind of, you know, the influences, the early influences are what drove me to be sort of diverse, and the, you know, the skateboard background, and then, you know, the whole thing of that time in early snowboarding was grabs, tweaks, and then later holds. I mean, during my time, there's a lot of sort of what I would call touch and go, right? Like, you know, throw a 9, you're just gonna like tap it somewhere.
Hot hands. You got that. It's like it's like the edge, like your edge is hot. You grab it, it's gonna burn you. It's gonna burn you.
Yes, the hot hands. And so, I mean, something during, I don't know, I'm like real particular about everything that I do, and something that one of my focuses was like grabbing the board and holding onto it. Like in my mind, it's harder to let go, and you know your style is going to get weird, but if you just hold on, then your arms are quiet, and you know you got a nice long grab. I used to just, every time a mag would come out with a sequence, I would look at my sequence and I'm like, okay, how many frames do I got holding? And that was like a point of pride for me to have like more frames holding than the average person, I guess. Yeah.
You actually thought about that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Absolutely. I'm like, that's a cool trick, but bro, you got 2 frames.
You got to hold on for 3 next time, or 4 frames.
Yeah. I'm like, I got to be held from, you know, majority of the spin or whatever it is. Yeah.
I love this. Let's talk about a couple other notables. Destroyer, you did a McTwist melon grab. That is a rare one. Like I just love that. Nobody grabs melon on McTwist.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so that again goes back to just the whole thing that where my mind is at is like, everyone does a mute McTwist. That's, you learn it that way. So I'm never going to do that one. I'm going to do it like tail grab or melon, or I'm going to do something that's just not what you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that. Another one we got to talk about a little bit further ahead in your career. We're a little bit out of chronological, but that's totally okay. Tail blocks and nose blocks. I want to say maybe Destroyer. I don't remember which video it is. You do a nose block on the wall at whatever it's called,
right
across from Snowbird there, and then you also in Moment of Truth
the Alta wall.
The Alta wall. Yep. You do a nose blunt block on that, like where you grab Indy and nose blunt, and then you do another block on a picnic table leaned up against a tree in Moment of Truth. Yeah. When I was going back and watching it in my head, I was like, this might be kind of early pioneer days of the block.
Yeah, so those, because I know, you know, Pat Bridges is a big holder of the block claim. But, I mean, everyone's been blocking because it's universal. And, I mean, shit, we used to try to hit backside tail slides and blocks in Vermont, of course. And then I have always liked to try to incorporate that, you know, because, again, it's kind of skateboardy and, you know, trying to, like, on a quarter pipe, like, come up and get a tail block, backside 180 back into the tranny, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff looks so simple and and minuscule, but the feeling and the technicality of it rewards, when you get it done, you're like, damn, that felt crazy good. But yeah, so to your point, yeah, I tried to bring those blocks to somewhere where I could bring them where it was like, okay, block up on a picnic table, or like that nose pick on the alto wall. At that time people weren't going to the top of the alto wall, so it was like acceptable. It was a cool trick. But
it still is a cool trick.
I mean, it's fun, right? It feels fun. I don't know. I like that stuff.
It's always good to have that stuff that makes you stand out in the parts, and that's
Right.
important.
Well, yeah, I mean, to that end, like, again, all the, the different things I think about, like, when I was doing my snowboard thing, it was, when I first started getting clothes, it was like, okay, now I got clothes. Now I can put together good outfits that make sense. And then I'm like, okay, if I wear these different colors that set off from the background, now I'm like, my photos are better than the other guy's photos, how I appear in the photo because I'm more visible. And so, yeah, everything like that, how you get creative, how you present yourself, it all matters, right? To be at the top, it's like, I don't know, I would equate it to like the podcast, for instance, right? Like, people have asked me to be on other potties and was disinterested. I could care less. But what you guys do is something super curated, cool, that like, I'm like, damn, what they're doing is awesome. I want to be a part of that. And that's that same thing, like, to be at that highest level or higher level, like, focus every aspect.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, that was
also.
tight.
Yeah.
What was that first clothing you were getting into? Or sponsor?
That was
Blonde or something?
So it was like, I think they had two brands. There was Spare, and it
yeah,
was under
Spare.
Ezekiel, which still exists, I think, in like, I want to say Nordstrom styles.
Oh, really?
But they had Spare and they had Blonde as clothing companies.
Yeah, at first I was thinking it was Dub, but it wasn't.
Yeah, we got to talk. I mean, we got to talk.
That's when
Dub.
your kits got memorable.
Yeah,
right?
because
When you got
that's
onto Dub.
I know, like, I'm a Dub fanatic as far as just the brand and how it used to look and the logo and everything. Yeah, let's talk about Dub.
Yeah, Dub. I mean, Dub was, kind of like I was saying, when I was doing the Spare thing, like, I had outfits now, but then when Dub came, they came with the cool colors that were obviously not earth tones anymore, which was super popular at that time. So you had those rad yellows, those oranges, those grays, those blues, like baby blues and grays, and
Those yellow pants were dope.
yeah, I don't remember how I got on Dub. I want to say my man Doug Protean was over there and helped line it up. But there were good people on Dub at the time. I want to say Marco was on there, Gabe Lynn was on there, myself. Trying to remember who else, but yeah, the clothing was insane.
Yeah,
So good.
I just think of the ads too. The ads, the visual, all the way
Right.
across the board. They had it, and they always are in the, like, a lot of the jackets were like, I don't know if they're called parkas, but the jackets with no hood. What is that? What are that
It's
style?
probably a good way to call it
yeah.
a parka.
Yeah,
And they had the tall necks.
the tall neck with
Yeah.
no hood.
Yeah.
Such a good look.
Like an anorak.
Anorak, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the biggest bummer is that I saved like nothing. I sold it all, and now I'm like, shit, if I could find a pair of any Dub actions in my size, it's always either too small or too large.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you could find them, you'd rock them.
I look at that stuff on eBay sometimes. It's good stuff.
Well, we should get into a guest question. We happen to have one from none other than Mikey LeBlanc.
Ooh, nice.
Hey, Ali. What up? It's Mikey.
Hi.
Hey, so, I rode with a lot of people over the years, but I always cite you as the person I trusted most to talk me down a line or tell me how fast to go on a jump or really just break down the situation in a way that was actually true. A lot of people are like, oh, it's good, just send it, brah. But you were like, no, it's 2 feet down, you go left, 4 feet, to pop off a 20-foot cliff, and there's a tree in your landing, but you got it, blah, 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 and the snow's good, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I always appreciated that about you. We had a lot of good days, and I wanted to hear how your calculated skills developed, because I feel like you're one of the most calculated people I knew snowboarding, but also you had this element of looseness, which made it super sick. Anyway, thanks for having me on, guys. Ali, love you, buddy.
Nice. Yeah, man. Mikey is just such a rad dude. You guys already know. Anyone that doesn't know, they should check out Mikey and should check out the you guys had a potty with him, I don't know, like 6 months ago. Should check it out.
Maybe a year.
Yeah, maybe a year.
Maybe a year and 6 months.
Feels like the other day. But yeah, so Mikey, thanks for the question. Much love to you, man. Love. I'll drop over to Mikey's house sometimes for coffee and chatty Cathy styles in the morning, you know. So he was talking about, me guiding him off of stuff, and I guess my calculated approach, and I really appreciate that's how he feels about me, because that's, obviously that's what you would want to do for anyone. We're out there in the backcountry, like, sometimes one guy jumps and the next guy hasn't necessarily seen the landing. He knows it's out there. And so you have to, depend on your friends to guide you. And I don't know. So I always try to break it down like that. Like, I mean, that's again, I'm like very analytical. And so, if you're like, what's this look like off the end of this? I'm like, okay, you're going to go 5 degrees, more left than the last guy, and, break it down so that you have a good idea. But I think it's funny that he brings that up though, too. Cause he and I would both joke about some photographers that we worked with that were like, yeah, it looks great, man. Like, it's blue skies. Well, is there a rock in the landing that looks like a rock? Yeah, it's going to be really nice in the air. You're like, bro, you're killing me right now. I'm not jumping.
Just basically send you off it at all costs to your body, but as long as they get the photo, they're happy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of that goes to something that Chris Mask from Original Sin had told me, which is like, live to ride another day. And that was kind of like my mantra. If when in doubt, like, you leave it out. Like, if you're not feeling good about it, or the guy's sketchy or like whatever, like, live to ride another day. Like, it doesn't matter if you get a sweet photo, bluebird background, and then you're out for months. So, yeah,
that's great.
And the photographer's got his photo, and he's happy.
They don't care.
The photographer does too a lot of times.
Photographer.
They say in moto you can't get fast in a cast. It's kind of
can't get fast in a cast.
Can't get fast in a cast.
And they also say in snowboarding you can't get hurt in the air.
Yes. They also photographers tend to say light's good, do anything.
Do anything.
We used to say, grab your tail and the check's in the mail.
So many good, what are these called? Antidotes? What?
Anecdotes.
Anecdotes.
Yeah, anecdotal quotals.
Yeah. I imagine if Twos was up there on the top of the run-in with you and Mikey, he would just tell you to go, too.
So
send it, it's good.
What's funny is, people that like are from the Twos era, right? They've seen Twos snowboard, or they've been close up with Twos. Like, they're like, I don't know, Twos is sketchy. I trust Twos so much that I learned how to jump cliffs at Brighton by following Twos. I'm like, okay, he knows where he's going to go. This may sound weird. I'm like, anything he can do, I can do. So, like, I trust, like, I'm like, I'm just going to go, I'm going to go 5 degrees to the left of where Twos went.
And then you got a landing. That's awesome.
I mean, it's like, anyway, I trusted that, like, we were going to go the same speed and he had skills. But I also was like, if he's going to jump off that cliff, I need to go 5 degrees to the side.
So you just follow him.
Yeah. And that's because, when we were in Vail, like, you see your landing. All you have is flat cliffs or jumps, and you see your landing. And then you get to a real cliff, you don't see your landing usually. I mean, I'm more afraid of being on the edge of the cliff looking than jumping. Yeah. I don't like to look.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's interesting hearing a lot of the people that I talked to yesterday mentioning that you're very calculated. That was a word that came up a bunch of times. How do you think you learned to be so calculated? Is it the way you look at the mountain? Is that the way you are? You think in your human nature?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've noticed that, like, my mom had a lot of skill, and not necessarily where I get my being calculated from, but she always had a way that she did things, and that was the way, right? You tell the people that this is how you do it. I find myself doing that because I know a lot of things, and I learned a lot of ways. But so, anyway, that whole, like, this is how it goes. This is the way. Like, I've absorbed that a lot, and I try not to, like, push that on people. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things, like, you're born with, right? And it's what I've used. It only seems to be good for passion, but what I've used for my athletic endeavors and my passion projects. Like, it still hasn't turned me into a millionaire from being calculated, but at least it helps me get where I want to go.
You know what, Buds? What do you think it's time for?
I'm thinking name that video part.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Yes.
Name That Video part is presented by Woodward, particularly Woodward Park City here in Utah is great. It's like a 15-minute drive up the canyon and you're snowboarding. It's great for us when we can do a podcast and then, say it's 5 o'clock, cruise up there, ride for an hour, get those reps up. Quick laps. Reminds me of the East Coast, just small hill snowboarding. You're not going up to the mountains. It's not a 10-hour ordeal, which is what we love about it. Now here in the summer, they got mountain biking. They got airbags if you want to learn how to do a backflip. I saw Alex Andrews did a bunch in the airbag and then got absolutely annihilated trying one to dirt. So that was great. They have an indoor skate park with air conditioning.
Nice.
So if you want to skate in the 100-degree weather, it's one of the only places. I saw Scheckler was there recently, destroying that place. Lizard King, all kinds of pros ripping through there. Tyson Bowerbank. So their skate park's incredible. You can learn how to do flips into foam pits. It's a freaking great playground if you're a kid or a grown adult like you, Stony Buds.
Yeah, just like me. I did a shoot there this year with Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son. Watched that kid do his first backside 180. And very exciting time. Sean White and Jaden Smith at the top of the mountain all at one time together. And Sean White actually said, "I liked your role in Karate Kid." It was kind of a funny moment.
Wow. You see, it all happens at Woodward. So if you're in Utah, be sure to check out Woodward Park City. Ollie, how are we feeling? Confidence level 0 through 10.
I'm going to go with a 9, hoping for some, big meatball in my direction.
Chris has been known to throw meatballs around.
This one, I don't know that this is a meatball.
You went hard on him.
I did. I kind of threw him under the bus, maybe, but I think you can get it. We'll see.
Depends on the air, I bet.
Let's see.
Here we go.
It's a quality song right there, though.
I'm like, this sounds like the Zoo York skate video, but man. What kind of hints do I got on?
Okay, first of all, you were in the video.
Okay, I'm in the video.
That's a big
right. So
it's a whitey. Obviously.
It's whitey, right? This is like Bozong.
You got it. You got it.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's Bozong at the skit when they're by the trash cans,
right?
And they're playing dice, and he's got the big gear on.
Yep.
Wow,
yep.
congrats.
That was impressive.
So that must have been like Brainstorm.
That was Destroyer.
Destroyer.
So
okay,
you won. What you got there is a Yeti bag. Shout out to our people over at Yeti for getting us dialed in with these. I think they're called carry-alls. I think that's a carry-all.
European carry-all.
Oh,
and then inside there, we also have a bunch of bomb hole goods, which are available where, Buds?
They're available at bombhole.com.
That's true.
We also got some Slow Tide goods.
Yep. We got Slow Tide towels and blankets, bomb hole branded. Couple cool things about Slow Tide. They make beach towels. They make all different types of stuff. A lot of it's sustainable. Every product is 100% sustainably and ethically sourced. It's made out of quick dry material. They have artistic prints. They got all kinds of cool collaborations. And we're offering a discount. If you're looking for that good present, you want to get a cool towel, collaboration towel, head on over to slowtide.co and use promo code BOMBHOLE20. Again, that's BOMBHOLE, all capitals, 20 for 20% off of Slow Tide gear. Or you can find it at bombhole.com.
Dude. Bros.
Dude.
I'm hyped on this gear. I gotta say, I was like, when I noticed that the coolers were no longer being handed out, I was a little disappointed. I wanted the coolers so bad.
But now you get the carry-all.
But the Yeti carry-all. Side note, though, anyone that's got a cooler out there that wants to trade for the Yeti carry-all, I'm in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And hey, I got gifts for you guys.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's just the kind of guy I am.
We like gifts.
Oh, snap. We got gifts.
Like
all right.
gifts.
Okay. Love that. Buds loves a good gift.
I love a good gift. I'm kind of a hoarder.
Yeah, pretty much anything you throw at him, he'll
I'll
take
just-
trash off the front.
I'll pretty much put it somewhere in my house, in the closet somewhere. Or
I put stuff. True story. I put some items in front of my house. Put a free sticker on them. Guess who picked them up?
Buds did.
So,
Dude, that was a good water cooler, dude. Still got that operational, dude, at the crib. I'll probably sell that thing too on KSL
Make
for
a couple
$150.
biscuits.
My wife would be so pissed. She's like, "You brought something else home." I'm always finding stuff.
What do we got?
So this one is for East Stone, and I feel like when you guys did your episode, you said that you didn't have one of these as your personal.
Describe what that thing is, Buds, for the people
The old
listening.
school Tech 9 baseball jacket. Woo!
Yeah, I think that's like V1
Version 1 right
Yeah,
That's a hitter.
You used to
And,
rock this too, dude.
That's a smacker.
Dude, this is
right
definitely version 1. I can tell by the label inside. Sick, dude.
yeah. So I feel like you said you didn't
That's
have
dope.
version 1 or something
Nope.
like that. So
This
thought-
is version 1. This
thought
is,
I'd
this
bring
is a
that.
nice gift.
And then,
Thank you,
not
Freshly washed, too.
for
It
like
smells-
brand
smells really good.
conflict or anything, but I happen to know Chris is a
Oh,
big
this
fan.
is for me, dude. I'm a
Wow.
dumb fanatic. Look at
Wow.
this. Dude, this thing is so sick. We got for the people listening, it's a dub backpack, embroidered OG dub print, black and yellow.
Original.
This is gonna be the daily driver. right
Daily
here.
driver.
This is gonna be my new daily driver.
That thing's crazy too because it says sample on it. I don't, probably never got made officially. Just so
The first dub backpack
I thought it
ever.
that was something for Chris. I found it in my basement.
Dope.
Thank you, Ollie. I really appreciate
absolutely.
that. I'm gonna rock the hell out of that. I appreciate that.
Rad.
So we're still in Name That Video part. We actually are going to do part 2. This is for the listener. If you know what part this is, comment on the photo of Ollie on Instagram on Bombhole's Instagram when this episode comes out, and that's where we pick our winner. Here we go. Great song.
Good track.
Oh man,
You know what that is?
no, it sounds so familiar though. When you tell me, I'll be like, oh yeah, for sure.
Paul, you can beep this out. It's
Huh? Yeah, I have to watch that again.
all right. Thank you guys for playing Name That Video part. All right, Ollie. Well, you've kind of lived through the changing of the guard of eras and snowboarding. You've been around a long time. Now, how would you say snowboarding has changed, and is it better or worse from your era?
I mean, obviously it's better, like in quality of snowboarding. Snowboard, the composition of the snowboards themselves, even. But the riding, obviously, you can't deny the level that it's at. It's definitely insane. But how it's changed, like, back in the day when we were first in Vail, you were able to film on resort. If you jump 16, 30 feet, you could call that something for the magazine. So it's not to say standards were lower, because that was still like the best shit happening at the time. But as everything kind of progresses, it does progress. And I mean, back in my contest days, like if someone did a back rodeo 5 to a rail, we were like, get the fuck out of here. But now if you back rodeo 5 to a rail, like there's a place for that. I'm not going to do it. I might not like it, but it's still rad. And there's the place for it. But the one thing I do see though is like with all the progression, people forget to check themselves. Like if you look at X Games, for instance, like you can't tell me that they're throwing stylish moves, because they're not. They're grabbing their knee. They're, going for one safety grab. Maybe you grab melon instead of mute, but people get caught in the cycle of chasing the next rotation, right? And then they want to complain about it. Like, oh, judges only give you points if you do the 2560 or, the 1890 or whatever it is. And I feel like I would love to see the athletes push back a little bit on that, because the judges are going to do what the athletes do. And if athletes are like, I'm going to back it down 360 or 180, but I'm going to do it like this nice. Kind of like, look at Sage, for instance, like what he did in the Olympics. No one was doing, what did he do? Like a double cork, bloody Dracula behind the back.
Yeah.
Like some, he did some crazy shit, but he wasn't just like, I'm going to throw the Millennial Spin. you know, and I guess what I'm getting at is like, I don't know. People should take responsibility for style and hold themselves accountable. And like, you know, Mark McMorris, like, I know he's got mad style.
Well,
but maybe he needs to back down a rotation and drop that knee down. Or I don't know. Is it the bindings? Is it the boots? Like, where'd the style go?
Well, I love that, and I'm going to play a devil's advocate as well in that because I agree. So so if you're looking for a solution to that too, you have to look at when you get into competitions, you essentially have to make either a mandatory jump that's under 900 or under a certain amount of spin. But what that creates a problem with is people are going to say that stops the progression of the sport, right? So the issue is like, if you ever watch, and I've said this a million times, but if you ever watch the guys that are competing and the gals, everybody that competes, you watch them in practice, their second run, you watch, all of them do warm-up tricks. It is it's an unbelievable how good they are at snowboarding and how much style they have. It's just in order to win the competition, spinning more scores more, and that's just something that for degree of difficulty. So it almost, to me, like, I'm going to hijack and just give my solution. I think that there should be like, at least, let's say you have a 4-pack of jumps, one jump is mandatory under 900, and Tour Gear can do a switchback 5 method on that jump and get scored higher than a back 18. And I think that would be a really cool thing to see.
I mean, so I guess that's kind of my thing. Like, I agree. Yeah, it's like once you get into competition, then it kind of goes a certain way. But to your point, like, Tour Gear switchback 5 method, like, thing of beauty that scores high, maybe better than a 1080 safety grab. But what I'm saying is, maybe you double dip a quad Japan. But I don't think you go like what's next? Like, what was it? The Japanese kid did a knee grab Millennial Spin or something. It was like a 24.97 or something. But what's next? Like, now you're just going to build a bigger jump and go further and spin more. Like, I think I heard you guys talk about it in All Banged Up or something. Like, is it going to be where someone dies because the jump has to be so big, or because now you're doing a 9 cork something? Like, I'm not hating on that. I'm just seeing that, like, it either goes to like this point where you have to die, or it comes to somewhere where it's like, this is a really nice quad cork Japan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it also makes the contrast, makes you appreciate the other side of snowboarding. I think that that side of snowboarding is going so, I don't want to say aerial and gymnastic, but in a way, it's like,
if you're grabbing your knee, I'm done.
Yeah, totally. But I'm gonna say one thing. Su Yu Ming, you watch him, but Su Yu Ming specifically, he did an 1800 and pokes it. He grabs it by his back binding, and his board is bending and it's tweaked, which is, I gotta say, is pretty fucking insane. If you ever watched his run at the Olympics, but and then going back to what we're saying, like, you see. At least I see in my circle of people that I snowboard with, that they seem to be much more drawn to a well-executed grab. Watch Blake Paul ride. He doesn't, you never see him do even rarely a 900.
Right.
And he's just going off of cliffs and poking and looking good in the air. And I think that like extreme push towards acrobatics is making people drawn more towards the beautiful basics.
Right, bringing out the style.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we can hope for that, because with the new normal can't be knee grabs. Like, there needs to be a deduction.
Yeah.
I feel like if you grab the knee, like, I get it, you got to get compact. Mm-hmm. But if your go-to is like mute knee grab, then you probably need to just practice more.
And that kid who's doing it perfect, though, is what Mark McMorris can't slow down, because somebody's doing it right behind him.
Right.
Like Su Yu Ming.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it gets to be
so
like
they all have to push themselves.
It's a cycle. It's like the Hakuna Matata that you never wanted.
Yeah. So I think those guys don't have a choice but to do what they're doing.
Choose the backcountry.
The backcountry where old pros go to die.
That's so wrong.
That's a Justin Meyer quote.
Yeah, he did say that.
Well, or what about the young pros that wish they could just go there? They're like, oh, stuck here in this contest circle.
Yeah.
All I wish I could do is like slash some sweet backcountry. But I'll tell you, if you don't start doing it, it makes it that much harder to go to, right? That's why you
true.
should start well-rounded, set the precedent. I mean, specialize, of course, specialize in something. You got to be the best.
I mean, look what you have to do in the half pipe these days too. It's crazy.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, it's also
Those are real
environmental. It's environmental. Like if you live in Minneapolis and you snowboard at Highland every day,
street guy.
you're like skipping the backcountry part because you're like, dude,
Right.
And
This
if you
is what I
live in
have.
Pemberton, BC, and you take snowmobiles up and rip pow turns all day, you're gonna skip the rail guy probably.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely not going for a rail mission.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck that.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I get that. I don't know. I just, like I say, I guess I would like to somehow see a mix where you can still have snowboarding properly presented in a competition format with the style that should be mandatory. Where now, like to your point, like gymnastically, the style is not mandatory anymore, and now knee grabs are acceptable. And the only thing is like, did you spin and did you land clean? That's not really snowboarding.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, obviously the Olympics was
It's not the heart of snowboarding. But, again, Olympics, like, great. People should have Olympics, like.
Should have it, but the judging was a royal fuck up. Now, going back to.
But they don't all grab knee, right?
No, they don't grab. No, they don't all
Not
grab
yet.
knee. But yeah,
You're all not yet.
Not yet. I mean,
No.
seriously, if you want to throw a millennial spin, you probably have to grab knee.
What is a millennial spin?
Yeah, I'm lost on that term myself. Over 20,000.
So I don't know. So
Over 2,000.
I can't remember the name of the kid that did it. Orange suit, big jump,
Su Yiming.
lots of spins. What was it like?
He was
It's
doing
5 or 6.
21 maybe.
Is it 2100?
1,800, 2,100. I forget.
It's definitely not an 1800.
Yeah, 21's the next one.
Yeah, so 21.
2160.
I always end up with an 1890. It's kind of a bad look. But anyway, 21. Yeah, maybe 2160. But I think he was calling it the Millennium Spin.
Oh, okay.
he
I'm
was.
lost. Like it's like kind of like the Skyhook, the flying tomato coin. You just kind of
Gotcha.
come up with a name.
Right. Yeah. It's yikes.
See, that's another bad. Like they could have called it the Misty, like Misty Flip. Good Millennial.
Good name.
I'm
Millennial,
not rocking with
right.
it.
It's like rapping about Instagram.
Yeah, millennial.
Eventually, your rap
millennial
is going to
spins-
be not timeless.
Yeah.
Yes.
Millennial spin's not going to hold water later.
One thing I got to ask, talking about contests, what do you think about natural selection?
Natural selection, I think, is dope. I mean, that's like what I would say is what holds it down for real snowboarding, where you've got real judges that are judging backcountry riding. And I mean, honestly, watching that this past year was pretty insane. Like just the terrain that the guys and the girls are tackling and how they're, the consistency. Because that's, what the average person doesn't know. But if you've been out in powder or you've just snowboarded in general, like, I don't know, like I have cool video parts. I didn't land those tricks every time I tried them, But so, what they do there with natural selection, I think is awesome from a selfish perspective. I'd love to see like old man's wild card.
Oh, like a vet class.
Yeah, but I mean, just not even like our own class. Like I don't snowboard a lot if I don't have a reason. If someone was like, "Hey, Ollie, do you want to come and like be a wild card with like LeBlanc and some other old heads to show that you can still snowboard in this thing?" I would be like, "Oh, let's do this." And I guess the reason I say that is because it looks so fucking fun.
I'll say this. I have friends that have ridden it that aren't top pros, that are like industry people. And they say this shit is fucking huge, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
When
like
you're there in person?
Yeah.
I don't know. When I look at it, it just looks so damn good. I'm like, that looks like pretty primo. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But it looks pretty fucking primo. Like at Jackson Hole, like the last booter that they have that's sometimes good. It's like a diving board cliff of dreams.
Yeah, that thing is incredible.
But yeah, watching the guys shred that it's just impressive. The guys and the girls, like just watching that. And I think that contest format and the locations they've chosen and how they've put that together, it embodies snowboarding. Most definitely.
What do you think about street? Do you think street contests, is there a place for that?
Yeah, I mean, always like, I mean, there should, contests for everything. And I think that makes it fun. And I don't know, I always loved going to those, like the rail contests, like the ones you guys did, like the revival of the heavy metal.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So I went to like one of the first heavy metals that Red Bull did. And
Niagara Falls,
yeah,
right?
was it Niagara Falls? It was, at like I think it was a library or a museum where there was all this stuff there, and they were able to have these different segments. And anyway, that stuff is so much fun. And then it also is good for snowboarding to be able to bring it that much closer to where people can access it. Because obviously, otherwise it's happening in the mountains or you have to like go search it out. But yeah, I don't know, all that stuff is fun, and especially seeing those heavy metals come back is cool.
Agreed. One thing I'm just going to chime in one quickly on that is that I wish that, when I watched the old ones with you guys, it was like all the top pros, yourself, Scotty Arnold, Seth Hewitt. It was all the larger than life, John Cooley,
Right.
people that are big names at these things, Mark Frank Montoya. And now it's almost like the rail contest is reserved for the up and coming kid, but the established video part guy doesn't do them because it's almost beneath them. Or, why I declined invitations, if I'm going to be totally honest, when I was a pro, is like, if you don't try, you can't fail. Right. It's like,
Right.
if I don't try it, I can't fail. But like, and so I would love to see a contest where we got our Tommy Gesmes out there, and we got like all the guys you want to see that are, and gals for that matter, that are like the top of their game, not just the up and comers, but like, the people, the Jake Kuziks, the Jed Andersons,
Right. Yeah.
it'd be fun to see a rail contest with all them, like street league style or something like that. But
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe they need more like rider invite purse.
true.
Because that makes all the difference, right? You obviously don't want to get broke off for no money. More than, you don't want to look bad, but you don't want to get broke off for no money.
And the AMs are just going so hard at those things too.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah, AM's always got to like make a name for themselves.
Now I want to transition. We got derailed for a hot second, but let's get back into your career. And I want to talk about your board sponsors, because you started with OSIN, and then where did you go?
Yeah, from OSIN, I mean, I don't know. Back in those days, like anything you're like, I want that money. I got to live, pay me more. I'm worth so much money. I don't know. It's always the struggle for that. So I went from Original Sin to Division 23. And at the time, like Peter Line had been on Division 23. It had kind of a cool vibe. Mikey LeBlanc and I were actually on at the same time. And that was pretty cool, but it was a little bit short lived. Like, it's kind of what got me into having a manager, actually, was I'd signed this contract that I thought looked good. And after a few months, they cut my pay in half, and it was in the contract, like economic conditions, which is like the biggest bullshit clause ever, because anything that you feel affects you is economic conditions, and you just cut your paycheck. But so, with Division 23, I was on there maybe about a year, because I was just looking to get off there as quick as possible, and they had screwed me by cutting my paycheck. So I was talking to Joyride, and Joyride was seeming cool. It seemed like there was something there, and they started giving me some boards to check out. And so I just started riding Joyride boards and was like, fuck these Division 23 guys. Like, they're not going to do anything anyway. And honestly, like, again, the universe, like, I feel like it couldn't have been better, because everything I shot for Revival and everything that mostly came out in the Transworld interview that I had at the same year, this was like 99, I think, when Revival came out, and Transworld interview was all on Joyride. So I had just like sort of double dipped. I got paid by Division. I rode Joyride. Then all my shit came out in Joyride. And I guess for those that don't know, like, the snowboarding was very cyclical. And so like you're sort of building your content all winter, and then stuff comes out when the magazines start flowing out in the fall again, and your video parts come out. And so I had, like 15-page interview in Transworld. I had video parts, all this stuff on Joyride, which just like kind of saved me in a sense, because Division 23 was screwing me, and then the whole Joyride thing just rolled in, and I got paid for all the work that I wasn't going to get paid for probably by Division 23. And that was Joyride. Joyride was pretty short too. I think I was on there about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And so the first year with them, we were developing my pro model. And then the second year, basically when my 2 sizes of pro model came out, I had already moved to Ride and signed a contract with Ride, which was like, I don't know, it's kind of like a dream come true, like big brand, solid brand, you know, your paychecks are going to come through. The product was good. And so I just, you know, had made that transition kind of quickly while I was trying to find a home, because I didn't want to be like jumping from sponsor to sponsor to sponsor. But, you know, you got to keep moving. You got that short window of time to make that money. And so that was kind of the progression. But, yeah, it was, so, you know, such a short time on Joyride, but they allowed me to do some cool things and created some cool pro models that were like super, the graphics were driven by me and, you know, curated by my friends. I actually brought those.
We'll just throw them on the screen as you talk about them. That's probably easier.
Cool.
We'll
Yeah.
just take a picture. So
the Joyride stuff, like, I only actually ended up with like maybe 2 or 3 of these models myself, because I'd already started riding for Ride during this, you know, as soon as these boards were basically hitting retail. But so I had the larger board, which I guess you'll see here in the screen, but I'll describe it for those that also are listening. It was the 155 size sort of backcountry model, and my friend Aaron Hawkins had he'd come up with the concept of this graphic, which was essentially on the top is sort of like links, like a chain link, like a necklace link. And within the links were images of like inside my house and my car and just things that were part of my life. And then on the tail was he'd had me handwrite like some DJ sets, because I was making a lot of mixtapes. And so, you know, I'd have all the, you know, the different record and the single and all this stuff written down. And so it's got like this whole DJ set on my tail. And then the bass he'd pulled from a Technics 1200, which is a high-end record player that DJs use. He'd pulled a diagram, and it had this weird fuse or resistor, and he'd put my name near it. But the whole thing, he called it the schematics of life. And it was just kind of this cool curated board that graphically I thought was pretty rad. It was my first pro model. So I was like, oh, cool. This is awesome. And then the other one, which was totally like in line with my Audi fetish, I'd worked with Galen Justice, Sweet Needles, good buddy of mine, and he had helped create a caricature of my Audi coupe, which is the Audi that I had modified, and that was featured on the base of the snowboard. And then the top sheet had this wheel by this company HRE, which they make custom car wheels. And anyways, it was just like a deep dive into what I was into at that time.
Wow, that was such a great description.
Yeah, I forgot Sweet Needles did that too. That's dope.
Yeah.
Well, on this car talk, we happen to have a guest question from none other than, we'll call him Super Agent / legendary snowboarder Ninja.
Nice. The
we go.
Ninja.
Hey, Bombhole and Ali.
Hey.
Ninja here. Couple questions for you, bud. First one, who got you into Audis and when? And second question, do you wish you would have bought another house instead of that coupe back in the day?
Right, classic Ninja coming through with the questions. Actually, so it was, it was very much Ninja and J2 and Adam Ehrman that got me into Audis. They were, Choose had like a wagon that was pretty well built, and Ninja actually got this Goulet, which was a Mitsubishi, it was a turbocharged 4-wheel drive thing. And then I think Adam, he had the money at the time, so he had an A4, which was new car. But so, those guys, basically their love of cars was the continuing catalyst. Like as a young kid, I thought rally racing was cool. My dad had an 88 Audi Coupe Quattro. So I had some experience with it, but my dad wasn't into cars, or, I wasn't, beyond Matchbox cars. It wasn't like a thing. But so it was really those guys that kind of pushed it. And, like, I guess like you do when you're enthusiastic, like the first thing I did, because it was the first thing I could afford, was bought a little car, a Volkswagen GTI from Ninja himself. And that was my car. And these Volkswagens have like 100 horsepower or something. So I'm like, oh, what should I do? I'll put a turbo on it. So then we spent like $10,000 putting a turbo on it to try to make it as fast as their Audis. And, eventually I just end up buying an Audi and then buying the right Audi and then putting $40,000 into that. But I guess it was those guys' fault. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Part two of his question. Do you wish you had bought a house instead?
Well, so I did buy a house.
A second house, he said. He specifically said a second house.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, no.
No?
I would like to say that, like my current vibe with cars right now is that I like to buy cars that are fully depreciated and sometimes undervalued and never lose money and only make money and do whatever I do with them. But, if you want a specific car and you want it a specific way, you're probably going to pay for it. And I feel like if you have the money, it's worth every penny because it's, even if I'm going to sell it for 12 grand later and it's worth 30 or 40 grand now, you still have to find that person to buy it, and ultimately it's for the enjoyment. So I don't know. Not that everyone gets it. People are like, why would you waste all that money on your car? And it's like, well,
your passion.
It's a passion and an enjoyment, and you have to just chalk that up. Like I don't do that now because also I'm, got responsibilities. I got 2 kids. Like can't waste money on cars, but I can play cars just with a different approach.
I love that too. And I think there's 2 differences between buying a nice car to fill an insecurity or, to fill some type of void and being really passionate about cars and loving the culture and loving how do you mod it? What wheels am I going to put on it? How am I going to make it faster? Every little detail of the car gets tweaked. Like that's a whole different deal than, well, I'm going to go buy a nice car. So I, fill this deep void that is unfulfillable. But
yeah. And I mean, like anything else, it's like a craft or, it can be considered art. I think, like I built my Audi with a very specific idea. Like everything I do is very specific. And I also wanted it to be in a car magazine and we achieved that. And that was when, your car magazine, they don't just take everybody's car because you only put out so many mags. And so, I don't know. I did this thing that I set out to achieve, and I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Well, so car culture was big in snowboarding back then because there was Dumped and Kitted.
Right.
That was a little set. Was that Transworld?
Yep. That was in Transworld.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Like the thing is this trickle of people that were into cars that, infiltrated the mag. So, like, Cody Dresser went to the mag, Transworld Snowboarding. He was like, oh, we should start doing something on cars within the industry. And I want to say my Mazda 323 rally car was the first kickoff of Dumped and Kitted, but I might be wrong on that one. But Dumped and Kitted was the car being dumped down low, like on suspension, and kitted is like, you put a body kit on it. And I want to say that I helped Cody like put that whole idea together, but he would allow me to do this thing called Ollie Disses Your Whip, which was kind of fun because I'm super opinionated, even though I like to put out a, positive energy mostly. I also like to poke fun at stuff and be a little bit of a dick. And so, someone would have their car on and I would just try to say something funny about it. Like Peter Lyon had his Escalade with big chrome rims and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, it looks like Master P has the same skin condition as Michael Jackson. Oh no, it's Peter Lyon. Like that's more of a dig on him than his car, but his car only had so many things wrong with it. But anyway, it was just fun. And yeah, there was a lot of car culture within snowboarding. And I mean, I would like to say that, I helped continue to push that on. Like obviously I got it from Twos and Merriman and those guys and Cody, those guys that were already into it. And I continued it, but like I was saying, through my snowboarding and, on my snowboards, and I was pushing hard all the time to try to get like the Audi name out there specifically because I really wanted to try to get that sponsorship or get some connection with Audi. And, so I had, the 4 rings on my board. I've got, ride posters. I'm wearing an Audi hat. Like I'm putting it out there everywhere. And, but I wanted it bad, and it never came to fruition because I didn't have like, what Todd Richards, he went to the Olympics. So now you're an Olympian. So you got that level, to lean on. But, just thinking about Audi and like the culture and the continuations of all that, like, I got to hand it to Ken Block, who's like living my dream right now and really doing it in the best way, because we both share this affinity for the early Audi, like the rally culture and what Audi did with 4-wheel drive, and his whole new contract is like specifically older Audi cool stuff, and then electric. And electric's cool and all, but the Audis he gets to touch are like the ones that basically turned me on to Audi and car culture. And anyway, Ken, if you're listening, give me a ride in one of your cars.
Love that. Going back, one thing that sticks out specifically on that was, I remember, I think it's Brainstorm, you nose blunt or like kind of lip slide fakie a concrete ledge, and there's so clear the Audi logo on your board. And I think that was the poster.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think, because I remember seeing that in the mags when I was a kid too, but I also wanted to kind of talk about that too, just as a transition. Basically, you guys were some of the first, I would say, like in the Whitey videos, it was Mikey, you, and Whitlake were kind of the original guys I've seen sliding concrete ledges.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know. That always stuck out to me like that. Above now, I go back, I think the chicanes and the back rodeos and the switchback threes are the sickest. But when I was a kid, I remember being infatuated with you guys sliding down gritty concrete ledges.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, because I know, from that era, like people are like, oh God, you're going to jump on that concrete ledge. Like, I'd rather jump on some metal or something. But I guess it never really bothered me. I mean, I just don't think about hooking my edges all the time. But yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, because I had almost forgotten about that. Like, the whole advent of concrete ledges even. Yeah.
Were you waxing them up or what?
I don't think we generally had to wax them.
You're just jumping on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless they were like sticky. I mean, so like the poster that Chris is talking about it was a pull-out poster. I'm pretty sure so there was a ride poster where I'm like jibbing a concrete ledge and Choose has just slung me into it. But then there was a pull-out poster in my Transworld interview that was from a like decrepit house in Park City, and this thing was mad jagged, and like it was going to be a cool photo, but then you're like, how am I going to do a trick on this that's not just like stopping, because it was like conglomerate rocks sticking out. But anyway, I did like a 5.0 to like tail slide or something on it to make it work. But yeah, gritty ledges, not too much wax.
Nowadays people take the ledges and you take a rub brick, you scrub them down, then you go wax them, and then you might even wait till it's cold enough and ice them. So now there's like a whole science to sliding concrete ledges, especially in colder temp places. You just ice that son of a bitch up and it's good to go. But then going back to your guys, is like, that's what made them so cool, is when you and Mikey were hitting them, it was like a gritty, like,
right. Yeah, they were like muscling them out pretty much. Like totally. Whatever the ledge had to give them, they were taking it.
Just survive.
It's funny because when you talk about that, like, the prepping, and then I just think about people that complain about like, oh, let's rake the jump again. There's a mark in it. Or like, oh, I got to prep this up just right. And then I just think about Mikey riding a toboggan, and I'm like, bro, like,
so true.
Detune, don't detune, whatever.
Yeah.
Just ride.
Doesn't really matter.
It basically runs over everything. It's a snowboard.
Yeah, true.
What about, let's talk about DJing, because I know you used to cut up some of your own parts. That was like DJ culture was kind of right there with car culture around that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it was big in snowboarding too. Yeah. Like DJs of some sort. But yeah.
MFM. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, MFM. But I mean, like guys that...
Tarquin, even before that.
Tarquin. Or like a Steve Blakely.
Yeah, Blakely.
Right. He was like, Steve Blakely was like maybe the first big headphones dude to shred with big headphones. He was actually...
He's the first big vegan shredder.
He was like, first big vegan shredder, pro on barfoot, and he made the 7th year, which was like basically why I moved to Breckenridge. Just watching people jib stumps and stuff. But... yeah, where were we going with that one?
DJing.
DJing, yes. So, I went off on a Blakely tangent. Yeah, so, coming from Burlington, Vermont, which had this really big reggae scene, which also kind of generally has a big DJ scene, I don't know, I found it really interesting because it's that whole manipulation of things. Like, you can just blend one into another, but you could also, make a whole new song in a sense by scratching in something or, you remix an acapella over an instrumental. So I just kind of liked it and kept working my craft and probably how it is with everything, at least everything with me. Like I'm always working the craft of whatever it is, and I think it's pretty damn good, and I'm ready to like put it out there, but it always still can get better. But so yeah, I was DJing my parts as soon as I could convince Whitey to let me throw some shit up there, and I always wanted to have it be like some some ragamuffin or like some hip hop dance hall stuff, like some Cableton or something, which probably turned some people off because they're like, "What the fuck is this?" Just a bunch of bumbleclots. But
it's crazy.
Bubs
Dancehall
loves
reggae
that.
never really took on. Took off.
I mean, you get your Sean Pauls and whatever.
Yeah.
Shut up.
You go out to you go to Europe though, you definitely hear that shit in the
American.
clubs.
Right. Yeah.
But in the States, it's like.
But Vermont, Burlington was like insane. Like
still is, I
the
think.
best
Still is a big
artists
scene.
would come through. Like there was a little record store there that was run by this guy Rhett, and it was.
I went to high school with
It
Rhett.
was bomb. Yeah, we'd get the 7 inches from Rhett, and
Used to buy dime bags from Rhett back
I'm
in
sure, right?
Dimebag
back
Brett?
in high school. Rhett.
Oh, Dimebag Rhett.
Yeah.
You go
DBR.
To, you go to his
DBR.
house late night with parents were sleeping. He'd pop his head out the back windows, slinging a dime. Props, Rhett. Props.
Yeah, see, I lived like an hour from
When everyone-
Burlington, so it wasn't like no creeping around for dime bags.
Well, Buds was actually born in the islands before he's reincarnated. His Stony Buds. He's actually he's got dance hall in his blood.
It's true.
Yeah,
Maybe
I've seen
previous
it.
life. Maybe.
Right. I mean, I've seen it, in the DJ booth, in between the bedroom and the bathroom back in the day.
Yeah,
used
talk
to
about
have
that.
some-
You got any?
used
Can
to
you
have some
recall? Can you
parties
recall
back
his skill set back then?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, the stories that you've heard and I think you've seen like on the travels is like no joke. When he gets the right amount of alcohol and the microphone's there.
Maybe it's the wrong amount of alcohol.
Right. But it's just like there's this combination of everything in the crowd and the lyrics are insane. And yeah, I mean, people's
Possession.
minds are just blown because, yeah, it's like possession, I guess, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the whole putting the Jamaican slang on it.
Because it's not like something I practice,
Right. No.
What was the?
I was never practicing.
No practicing.
Stony Buds brings the thunder. What was the line?
I could
There was
just
no
imagine.
lyric writing.
Yeah, it's off the dome. It's all in the dome.
Right.
It's all
That's the
freestyle.
craziest part.
It's all from your previous life.
I freestyle around the house all the time. I think my wife gets annoyed.
Didn't you? I heard a rumor that
just
you
chatting around the crib.
you opened for Biz Marquee when you were DJing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Rest in peace, huh?
No doubt. Biz Marquee, R.I.P. Fuck, Bricks, R.I.P. Bricks is where I opened for him, which was a club downtown Salt Lake. And
Good scene there.
yeah, it was a sick scene always. In fact, I think I had 2 broken wrists when I did that. Yeah. I was like double casted from like some UnVailed incident. And
How do you get lined up to open for Biz Marquee?
fuck, it's hard to remember, right? I remember Big John used to work down there.
I was like that.
Maybe it was something through Big John, who was a bouncer down at the Bricks. But it was like I was DJing different places, and I had a night like me and DJ Knuckles, which some people will know from like Tech 9 fame and some analog fame maybe.
DJ Knuckles.
Exactly. So he and I had a DJ night together at Caribbean Nights, which was like a Latino spot, but on Wednesdays it was a white boy hip hop spot.
Right in Sugar House. Right?
Yeah, yeah, right. It's down the street from my house at the time. It's actually where I met my wife. Strangely enough.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. You mentioned
Yeah.
UnVailed in passing right there. UnVailed, I think you did pretty good in that
Yeah,
contest.
you were a
back in the day.
champ, weren't you?
Yeah, I guess I won.
What was UnVailed?
So UnVailed was, I don't know who conceptualized it, but it was going to be this half pipe park contest. And the first one was basically like a big half pipe that they put some kind of park jumps down the middle of, and it had quarter pipes everywhere. And you just basically jam session it.
It was like a half park.
Yeah,
Like Peace Park.
Yeah, like Peace Park.
Yeah, it was like
scenario.
a peace park type of vibe. Yeah, at least as far as like the snow goes. But it was a pretty like normal contest otherwise. But yeah, I mean Todd was there. I want to say Todd Richards.
You beat
was
Richards.
There. Beat Richards.
Let's just hold on. You beat Richards.
Boom.
Gave Richards a beatdown.
How does Richards feel about that?
He's probably got no comment.
No comment on the.
I feel like I don't know if Otterstrom was there.
Oh, you beat Chopper?
But and Rippy was there once.
Woo!
Rippy was there. Dave Downing was
Otterstrom
there.
just gets better with age.
These
though.
guys are just getting
Yeah.
his body count is just
Right.
insane on this contest.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was just like, home court territory kind of, and I did a few unveileds there. They turned it to a team event one time, and Cody Dresser and I did it. That was actually the year I broke both my wrists was a team event, and I think Cody and I held it down for the Canyons. But it was a fun event, and I just always
Did you break
rode
both
well
both
there.
wrists in one move?
Yeah, bummer.
That's a tough one.
It was McTwist Melon to disaster, revert to basically like your neck in the flat bottom.
It's a double wrist break.
Yeah, I just landed like perfect disaster and just bounced in, and I thought I was going to break my neck. I guess I put my hands back enough that I actually just cracked these little bones. They're called the scaphoid. And so it was like I still had function. I didn't have like crazy S-bent wrists. They weren't big breaks.
It's like the small bone, super smallest bone in your wrist. Huh?
Yeah, it can be kind of problematic actually because it like the way mine broke is like 20/80, and the 80% part broke off on the blood flow, or the 20% part. I had to get surgery.
It's a very popular snowboard break, actually, like the most popular.
Yes, super popular.
And if you don't heal it properly, it dies, and they have to fuse your wrist together.
Bro, seriously. And I had bilateral, so I'm doubled down, just like jerking off like this and having a garbage bag up to like wipe your butt.
Yeah, I was
and stuff.
wondering.
It's
I
like,
wanted to ask, how did you had
it's
a
the
garbage
worst.
bag to wipe
I'm garbage bagged. I would put both arms in the garbage bag like this.
and wrap them in?
No, not get crazy, but just so you had coverage, and then you just do your thing, and then that way you're not getting it on your cast.
Yeah,
keep it simple.
Poop
That's
cast
that's
would
a
be
good
tough.
hypothetical to wean out your significant other. Is like, hey, if I broke both my arms and I couldn't wipe my ass, would you wipe for me?
Yeah,
right. It actually significant others, whatever. I was dating a girl at the time, and she was super kind and nice.
She wasn't down?
I remember I was over it. Like the relationship was kind of timing out. I think I'd gotten my casts off. Really wanted to break up and go out on the town with actually Ethan and some other guys. And it turned into a freaking Seinfeld scenario. Tried to break up with this girl. She was at my house for 24 hours, like convulsing, dry heaving, like had to take care of her, which like I did. I was nice about it, took care of her, but I ended up having to ultimately load her in her car, drive her to her house, put her in her bed, and jump on my skateboard and go home. After 24 hours, I was just like,
that's a harsh breakup.
We need to be done. Yeah, it's just a bummer. I mean, it sounds...
There was a Seinfeld
It
episode
sounds
about that
unsensitive, but it just is a weird scenario. I'm not that great to have that kind of reaction. But a 24-hour breakup.
Yeah,
but that was the end of my cast.
Did she wipe for you?
Yeah, you didn't answer the question.
No. I'm not trying to.
Was that the main reason for the breakup?
Yeah, is that what's caused the
is that what caused it?
No, but surely that would have. I wasn't about to let that happen. You got to be pretty bad off to let someone wipe your butt.
See, I would. That's to me that I would.
I think that's true love.
Yeah, true love. That's where I see it. It's like hypothetical. I think on a first date, I'd probably ask that.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you be willing to wipe my anus if I broke both my arms? Yes or no? She says no. I just get up, leave the dinner.
Get up, leave the table.
Right.
Leave her with a bill even.
Limited commitment at that point if you're not down.
Yeah. All right, that took a turn.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cheddar Biscuits here. I want to know. People want to know when you were in the prime. What are we talking here? Let's talk biscuits.
Right, prime. Well, a little bisc history.
Bisc history.
Bisc history. So, in my day, early 90s, everybody was pro, even if you got paid $200 a month.
That's the truth.
But I got paid way more than that. But it was like steady increase.
You're a pretty high level pro, though.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
I mean, you made it on our show. I mean,
right. I know. You know,
Just kidding.
still paying for it.
So tell us about the bisque.
Yeah, so Bisc.
You gonna Louis Vito us? You think?
Yeah, he's starting. That's
He's
what he
starting to
was
squirm.
like,
He's
starting
squirming
to
around a little
squirm.
bit. Yeah.
So reasonable amounts of money. Let's say like the last 4 or 5 years is like over 100,000.
Okay.
And then building up to that, nice and steady. So
That's
it's
solid.
good. Yeah,
That's more than $200 a month or whatever you were saying.
Yeah.
There's no problem spending 40 on a car then.
No,
That's mellow.
no problem. Just like my mom was always like, when you make money, buy a house first. And I'm like, okay, cool, but I don't have that down payment, but I can start putting some money down on this car.
Less of a down payment. Huh?
Less of a down payment. But yeah, all that stuff happened so fast, actually. The bisque
crib,
just piled up. And, it was like I was saying, like in that 99, 2000, 2002, 2003, like Division 23, Joyride, ride, photos, so many photos, so much paychecks.
But sounds like you were spending it too, though, as fast as it was coming in, or no?
I mean, I didn't ever have much savings. I mean, when you're a 1099 guy, the tax man wants his money. So half of the time I'm like, sick, I got like, 20, 30 G's in the bank. Boom.
It all goes to the tax
write
man.
a check to the tax man.
Yeah, you think you're
it's
rich
what,
until you pay
40%, right? For if you're not, if your tax man's not super.
Yeah, I mean, so many like $20,000 checks to the tax man or more,
Now, after being a pro that has made six figs,
Six figs.
snapping necks, cashing checks, grabbing tail,
checks in the
mail scenario, we want to know, like, if you were to go back and give advice to a young kid coming up, what advice do you have for that young ripper?
Pad your contract with lots of like incentives for your social media, or maybe just like get a second job.
Yeah,
I don't know. Early? Get a second job early?
Get a second job early. No, I don't know. I don't know. Like the vibe I get from the snowboard industry is that there's a lot of money to be made for a certain amount of people. There's more money than ever, but that there's less in the middle. Like, I come from a time when the middle was fat.
Yeah.
Everyone was getting 40 to 50. People were getting 40 to 50 all day. And I don't know if it's so much like that anymore. But then certainly you got guys and girls that are making tons of cheddar bisque, and then some that are basically still like, living off mom or dad or the uncle.
Or just not making a lot of money, but making it work.
Right. But I guess what I would say is that there's always, the one thing you always find, and it's like what I was saying about you guys, or, what I tried to do with my snowboarding, is there's always going to be room for something at that high level that's super curated, that, if you pay really good attention to your snowboarding and you look at the whole thing from a business perspective and understand that there's only so much time, then there's tons of money out there. I mean, look at like our boy Louis Vito's got that Wiener Schnitzel money, and that Toyota money.
Dancing with the Stars money.
I don't even know if he has a board. He doesn't have a board sponsor.
Things. Yeah, he did
you know what I mean?
smart
But it
things
doesn't
in
matter.
his day.
And so then you can still do it your way. And then I guess the other thing I would say is kind of like that whole graduating to the backcountry thing. Like my feeling is like if you're putting yourself in these different situations, you could still be known as the contest person if that's what your specialty was or whatever it is. But I don't know. Your time is short in snowboarding maybe, and try to do everything if you're into it, or don't do more than the one thing if you're into it. I mean, it's for everyone to figure out, but I would just always want to be more diverse.
Totally. If you see a guy do a freaking amazing jump trick, the rail trick becomes more valuable. When you see somebody do it all. Totally.
Right. I mean, when you don't see someone do it all, it actually becomes more apparent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I have to ask too, because I think that snowboarding is so much about edge control. And earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that you bashed gate ski racing.
Right.
Did that play a factor in your edge control?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, everyone can develop good technique or whatever, but, coming from that era where like Craig Kelly really turned, he did giant slalom and Sean Palmer did giant slalom. Everyone learned to turn back in the day. And then in the 90s, people just started snowboarding, and the style I was chasing was like some Bobby Meeks Tarquin shit where you're like, your fingers are spread, your hands are out and they're flat parallel to the ground. And you're almost like slushing, you know, you're just turning everything sideways and just buttering everything. You know, Betsy Pratt would be pissed.
Betsy Pratt would not be down.
Betsy Pratt is from Mad River Glen.
Yeah, Mad River Glen.
That's a callback from earlier in our episode.
Exactly.
It's a reference.
But if you see like, I don't know, if you see me snowboarding and you know what I look like when I snowboard, you would see me. You're like, oh, there's Ollie at Woodward, because I'm like rail, jump, edge, 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 rail, jump, whatever it is. Like I don't push around. I edge because I like the feeling of the G-forces too. That's kind of like the whole like rally car, bicycle, whatever it is, like that feeling. It all comes back to that one feeling, right? You roll down the street on your skateboard. Just rolling down the street feels awesome. Just going edge to edge and feeling how you can hold that edge is awesome. Like I used to wake up in the morning in Vail and I would just, you know, roast a bowl, drink some coffee, first chair, music, and I would just be cutting GS laps basically on the big racing faces that they have at Vail. And then eventually I would bump into a crew riding the same chairlift and then I'd be shredding with whoever. But just the mornings, just cruising, music, groomers, laying it over, edging. Yeah.
As you get older too, edging is something that's fun.
I've heard that. People have told me that.
No way, that shit's way too hard.
Well, just riding fast and shit is still pretty sick.
Yeah.
You know, it's like riding a bike.
No comment. So
you'll get there, bud. You'll get there.
No, it is good. It's a big crew. There's no doubt about that. But so basically to recap what you said, essentially grab tail the checks in the mail.
Yes, and learn how to snowboard. It's good for you properly.
Yeah, totally. That's good. Edge control is important.
Yeah, edge control is like, I mean, because it just shows, right? Like you can shred and oh, that guy's rad. And then, but you're like, oh, what happened to your edge control, buddy? You can't make it down this chute. Like, oh, bummer.
You know what trips me the fuck out is watching a lot of the top slope style competitors spin backside and go dead straight in the jump. They literally don't like
no S setup.
They basically do a slight heel side.
Yeah.
And then if you watch, like, especially maybe Stahle would be a good example of this, goes dead straight and then torsionally flexes their board. Like you can see, if you see like the slow-mo clip of it,
see their
they
board.
torsionally flex it and then wing it dead straight. And I'm just like, the amount of edge control these guys have is psychotic.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about like some good slope or some pipe.
Yeah, pipe
like
is even gnarlier.
Yeah, you're not going to get out.
Scotty James, switch backside.
Yeah.
It's like that, dude.
Bro, switch
Unreal.
backside is like, you might as well just toss yourself like old trash if you're not good at that. Like you're just going to get flung.
You're going to get worked.
Yeah.
You want to feel like embarrassed on your snowboard? Go try a switch backside air.
Yeah, go try to go up the half pipe wall, switch backside.
Yeah,
Especially the size of it today.
Right. Good luck.
Speaking of that, Buds, when's the Switch Mickey coming out of retirement?
Maybe, I don't know, we got airbag set up.
Let's
go.
We need a mini pipe with an airbag.
Mini pipe.
Mini pipe
What
with an
size
airbag.
was the Vail pipe back in the day?
8 or 9.
That's a good size.
Yeah, really nice.
It's a good size.
Prime. When you could sprock, it was all about sprocking. Now, if you sprock, you're going to land in
You're
the
going to just
flat
bounce out.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just speed and edge control only.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, mostly not too much ollie.
None.
But it was all ollie back in that, like, you know, brushy days, old Terje days, U.S. Open, just crusty hand dug. Not hand dug, they dig it with like a backhoe.
Yeah.
And it was so crusty. You know, you see the old footage and you're like, man, that thing sucks. But dudes were boosting. And it was just, you just hit the lip and then jump up in the air as hard as you can.
All right. Well, we've had this on the set here, this urn. Do you want to talk about what this is?
Yeah. So that's my mom.
Should we give her the super air horn?
Yeah. Well, no. Let's give her just the regular air horn, but maybe multiples.
Okay.
Yeah, because the super air horn's too crazy.
Okay, she just want. Okay,
but
what about applause with an
we
air horn?
We need like a medium air horn.
Yeah, just some respect is always good. So yeah, that's my mom. Unfortunately, she passed away. Spring of 2020, she had like some pretty rare cancers. but my mom she's basically who raised me. My dad was always right down the street, but they just didn't get along. So early on, they were just like, we'll go our separate ways. And so it was my mom that drove me to all the bike races and supported the snowboarding and, did all the wonderful things for me. So I thought it was just appropriate that I would bring her along, try to, take her places and sprinkle her around Hawaii and, all stuff like that. But my mom was just obviously like a big character in my life. And she chose this urn probably about 6 months before she passed. And, so
it's a pretty cool urn too that she picked out.
Yeah, it's like this total Day of the Dead thing she got out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which was like a place she loved to go. And she picked this one out, and then she picked out 2 other little ones that are maybe the size of a beer can for her 2 best friends. So
oh, wow.
I divvied up a little bit in there and sent them back to Vermont. Yeah. So there she is. I mean, I kind of wanted to like try to bring my friends along, like I brought my mom. I got J2 over here, and I also have my buddy Mikey, who I started a skateboard company with, and I brought him along in the form of a skateboard deck, actually. Yeah.
We smoked J2, huh? were you there with us?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. It was going nuts on J2 day this past spring. I saw people.
It was crazy, yeah.
Were smoking him. They were doing like dips, like tobacco in the lip styles. Yeah. That's.
Twos would have been so proud.
Twos would have been all in for that for sure. It's a little too gritty for me. Like, I know what ashes in my mouth tastes like, and so I passed on that one.
Oh, you passed on it?
I passed on the ingestion or the snorting or yeah.
Yeah, people took it too far, but Twos would have been proud.
Yeah.
You're a big part of putting that together, too, the J2 Day. That was a really big success. That was great.
Yeah, J2 Day was cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was just a great celebration of, someone that's passed. Yeah.
True.
And that was on 2/2/22.
2022, yeah.
Yep.
Tuesday.
On a Tuesday, too. It fell on a Tuesday.
Right.
It's kind of random.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that you wanted to honor your mom and your friends. And Eastone mentioned something about potential alien contact.
Right. Yeah. So,
well, it's crazy. I think last time your mom was in town, or I don't know if it was the last time she was in town. One time I was in town, you guys started talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
But never told me the story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but she was like, one time I need to tell you the story.
Huh. Yeah, I wish, I want to, get hypnotized or something so I can remember the story better, because I was, 16 when she told me. But interestingly enough, this alien contact happened in Santa Fe. Was it Santa Fe? Or it was in the Southwest, but she had been visiting her friends in Santa Fe, and she'd been doing a lot of meditation at the time because she also has a Buddhist practice, and she's not interested in aliens. There's nothing, it's not like her hobby or anything. And as the story goes, so she told me this story when she came back right after she'd experienced it. Told it to me just a 16-year-old kid in the kitchen. But essentially she was out in the Southwest, and she had taken our friend's dog to hike him. And, she was hiking out in the desert, and I guess the path had kind of dissipated. It wasn't clear, and the dog wasn't picking up the scent. And so she's kind of milling about. They're trying to figure out where the path is. And then some other people come along, I guess, that were also they're looking for this path, and they invited her to essentially go meditate with them up on some, mesa, some bluff or something. So she had, she's like, okay, I'll go along with you. And she was kind of thinking, I hope these aren't crystal people. I don't know what her aversion to crystals were, but she was into meditation, but she's not into crystals. Go figure. But so what happens is she sits down with these people, they're meditating, and this one guy glows gold. He's like gold aura, and he's speaking to them like through telepathy, right? So it's like he's speaking to them. They're not saying anything, and he's saying that he is a being from Pleiades, which is a planet where, you know, they say some aliens come from. It's alien culture. And he's saying, you know, specifically to my mother, that she should continue her practice of meditating, and then she'll be able to start channeling these people. And she, you know, in that moment, she was like, can you give me some sort of sign to let me know, you know, that this is real or whatever it may be. And at that moment, a hawk had flown over, and she'd wanted to see a hawk apparently. So that, you know, kind of gelled things. And that's like really the parts that I remember. Like, I don't remember, there was more detail, right, to what he was saying. But the gist of it was just that she should continue to meditate. She will channel, and someone would need to be there present to basically document the channeling. So that to me was a little bit spooky. Like, I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, when you're a 16-year-old kid, and your mom's telling you that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't really want to be like, I don't know what's going to happen when you channel. Like, I don't know, it seems scary. But anyway, it just kind of was quiet after that. Like, she didn't meditate more for a while. But she did eventually return to a practice of Buddhism and meditation, and never said anything more to me about that. But that's, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I love the whole, like, not all conspiracy theory, but I love, you know, the what ifs of things and looking at things from a different perspective. And I love the whole alien thought, you know, cause it's like, how can we be the only life form, and, you know, as vast as the universe is?
Yeah. If it's infinite, like they say.
And I mean, like, my understanding is that Chris is marked.
I got a triangle right there.
Yeah, triangle on the finger. Like, that's insane. I want to see this.
Perfect. Yeah, somebody was sending me some documentation about that.
Yeah, that's weird. It's like a triangle-shaped scar, and you said that
triangle.
you found other people.
I Googled it. Yeah. Who knows, you know, but
somebody sent DM me some shit about that.
Yeah.
There's other people talking about it.
Right.
Well, and Bodhi supposedly was abducted by aliens, you know.
He never dreamed again
and
after
then,
that.
Right,
you know,
that's crazy.
Maybe they gave him the skills for those, you know, switchback rodeos. And back tens.
Such a good snowboarder.
Yeah, maybe that's where he got that from.
Right. I mean, there's certainly something to all of that. You know, when back in the day, it's like, oh, a weather vane or weather balloon fell down. Well, first it's a UFO, then it's a weather balloon, then it's like, I don't know. And then now we've got new technologies. I mean, we definitely made some advances. The iPhone is like, all you need to do is look at your iPhone. I mean, I don't know how anyone can believe anything these days when I can have an app where I could just put my face or any of my friends' faces on it, and it's pretty convincing like that. Now, what are you going to believe? Because if I could do that on my app, like, you could do like a pro job. You're not even
the real deep fake stuff.
Yeah, like deep fake Tom Cruise, like, for real though. Anyway,
I love it. Well, one thing I wanted to highlight too is the fact that you keep talking about like good vibes.
Yeah,
I want you to lean into that a little bit more.
Right. So, you know, I'm not like, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. Religion is a whole nother thing. I believe that people need religion. I don't believe that there is like one God. There may be multiple gods. There may be, you know, everyone can't be wrong. You know, all the different religions, they're all basically talking to one God. But I guess for me, like the earth does vibrate. We're electrical beings. Like, these are known things. There's a thing called the Schumann resonance. That's like the frequency that the earth vibrates at naturally. And you can actually achieve these same vibrations. Like, if you get you're sitting in a chair, you put your foot up on the ball of your foot and you wait long enough and it'll start to vibrate. And like, I think it was African tribes in Africa, like, they would have their kids do this to calm them. But then they start, like, your leg starts vibrating at the Schumann resonance. And I guess my whole point of this is that we are all vibes. And it's almost like, if you want to look at Star Wars as a nerd and want to know what the Force is literally the magnetic force, the Schumann resonance, the vibrations that we have on the earth that connects us all. And what I find is that putting out good vibes definitely brings back good vibes. Like, people are saying, oh, if you're nice, good things will come. But it really does. Like, I don't go terribly out of my way, but I would rather build someone up or say something positive about what they are doing than, point out something that they're not doing. I mean, I can't always stick to that. Like, when I'm talking to my kids, I'm like, this is what you're doing wrong. But in general, like, it's that same philosophy of like, something's triggering you on the internet, you look at it and you do the simplest thing, which is if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything. Or maybe you could come at it and like challenge, like I like to challenge myself to find something positive to say, because everything comes from people's passions, whatever it is. Like, in the car world, for instance, like the corniest thing you can do probably is put a K&N sticker on your windshield after you've put in a $50 fuel filter or air filter. But the reality is there's passion behind it, and everyone starts somewhere. And so while I may be like, it's corny, like, why would you represent your air filter? I still understand that there's passion. But yeah, it's I don't know. For me, the vibration is like something that's so real. And if I had a religion, it would probably be Earth, just because like I don't know if you guys are into grounding. Some people are aware of it, but basically because the Earth does have an electrical field and vibrations, and because we're electrical beings, it's really great for your body to just touch the ground barefoot every day. And actual scientific studies show that like your blood, the content of how your blood molecules are and everything changes after 3 minutes of contact with the earth. I don't know, fun stuff to do is like grounding and like sun gazing. Like, people gave Trump a lot of shit for staring into the sun during an eclipse or something. And yeah, you shouldn't do that. But in the mornings and the evenings, it's really nice to let that low light come into your eye, like maybe out of your peripheral, and it can have like these really positive effects. Mm-hmm. I'm into a lot of that stuff because my mom was like into homeopathic remedies and things like that. And some might call her like an extra tree hugger or hippie or something, but there's things that we sustained ourselves with and healed ourselves with for thousands of years before modern medicine. And there's no substitute for cutting into someone and doing a surgery. Like, you can't rub bark on that, but you can rub bark on some other shit that they might try to give you a surgery or some medicines for. And I mean, it all comes down to, environmental, and we have a lot of environmental effects on us. And so the more you can like have positive energy, be in contact with the earth, be positive among people, the less chance you have just in general of getting cancer, sick, all of these things. Like, you get the flu, it comes from, different aspects, but part of it is actually your mental and how you're feeling plays big into your physical, which then when that gets depleted, then you get sick. If you never are sad and you're, in good health as far as food and stuff, I don't know if you'd ever get sick. And I'm not a doctor, but I'll play one on Facebook.
But yeah. No, there's a lot of really.
What about catching viruses,
points.
though? I mean,
viruses. Well, so the thing I've learned about viruses is that viruses are also within us. And so, like, just because you're deathly ill, you could hawk a loogie right in my mouth. I'm not guaranteed to get sick because you've got, immune systems and other things. Like, can you pass a virus? Yes. Do you pass a virus? Not always. And viruses can be within you.
And maybe if you're beat down from how you're feeling,
you're stressed
you're
out,
more
you're more
likely
susceptible.
to get
Right.
that virus.
Well, you want to talk about like more modern things and something you might hear on the radio, like HPV. People talk about HPV. It's the funky bumps on your genitalia.
Yeah.
They have an ad for it, which is really interesting because the ad tells you to go get vaccinated for it. But the ad actually in it says that most people have spontaneous resolution, but some people don't. And if you take this vaccination, then you won't. And then you don't. It's almost like keeps. Like, I'll say you some shit for your hair to keep the hair before you lose it.
Is Keeps a thing? Is that a real thing?
But did keeps keep your hair, or were you not going to lose it?
Is Keeps a real thing?
Keeps is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all like, this is marketing. It's all like, we're going to sell you this. We're going to tell you need it. And we're going to play on your feeling that it, like, if you don't get this, the funky bump is going to take you out and you're going to have cancer. I mean, the reason I know this is because they push this hard on children. You know, they're like, vaccinate your kid for HPV. And I'm like, yo, I mean, herpes is almost worse. Like, you know, just don't be careful who you kiss. Like, the funky bump is a whole different thing. But anyway, I guess
keeps is smart because a certain percentage is going to go bald and a certain percentage isn't, so they win.
But that's the world we live in. Is there's a bunch of magical stuff, and then there's also a bunch of other stuff, and there's marketing and media, and all of it can be great or cannot be great, depending on how much you realize. I mean, it's like, man, I was talking to this crazy guy I know, and his dad was a projector guy in the movies, right? So he's seen the single frames of Coca-Cola and popcorn, the subliminal stuff.
The real ones.
That only a little bit of your mind picks up, but you never consciously see it. And that's just so real. I mean, we already know subliminal messaging was used. You know, they put sexy images within the ice cubes of a Hennessy advertisement. Like, we already knew that. A lot of people don't think about it.
Yeah.
But I guess my whole point to this is, like, the more you... Like, just don't take the media for face value. Just don't take your friend's social media post for face value. But maybe look into all this stuff, and you'll find that, like, yeah, there's single frames of popcorn and Coca-Cola at the movie theater because that's old school ways of getting to your mind.
You go to buy it.
Yeah. You guys should try it in your podcast.
Some little frames of pub beer.
Yep, pub beer. Subscribe. Like, up your Patreon commitments.
Speaking of pub beer,
yeah,
it could be time, huh?
Is it pub beer crapshoot time?
I think it's time.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Hey, buddy. That's how you can tell a real friend right there, because they'll look you in the eyes when they drink
After
the
you
drink.
say cheers, you're supposed to.
You know, I don't want to put it strictly on a gentleman, because a gentlewoman would also know these things.
Yeah.
But,
you're supposed to make eye contact.
Eye contact.
For the listeners, we have a little concoction going on here. We got some pub beer getting mixed with, looks like some orange juice.
Did we decide if this is called a brass monkey or not?
You know, I looked up the brass monkey,
It's
and
not
that's that is a true cocktail with alcohol, hard alcohols.
But
I don't know what this is. This is like,
it's like a Leinenkugel.
You know, it's like a summertime shanty vibe.
Leinenkugel, huh? They did that in Germany, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's like a poor man's Hefeweizen. You know, just a little orange juice,
a little Blue Moon vibe
up on your pub beer.
That's
Nice.
a great way to enjoy pub beer in the summer, right there.
We haven't seen that.
And a little pro tip: if you throw it in a wine glass, because of the nature of the shape, it keeps the effervescence in, and actually makes your skunky beer taste better.
Wow, we're learning things here on the Bomb Hole today. All right. Let's
What were we doing again?
Effervescence?
Yeah, effervescence.
Clackety clackety.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crapshoot.
Yes. Roll these bones.
Roll them bones.
All right, I've seen a lot of these shows, but I'm still going to need like a little guide.
Yeah, we'll tell you what it is.
There we go.
We got a guide. You just roll and we tell you.
I got to roll. I'm just going to roll.
Yeah,
You
2
just roll.
dice.
And then just whatever happens on the pub beer crapshoot.
Happens.
All right, here we go.
We're rolling the dice,
Here we go.
literally and figuratively.
It's a roll of the dice.
Come on, Goon Gear. I got 7.
We've been getting this one every time.
Yeah, it's been popping up.
Seven's hot, but I like
sevens
it.
are hot.
Seven.
Who's one of your favorite people to party with?
7, 7, 11. Oh, man.
7 even back though, little Joe.
Right? I mean, Ethan's obviously a strong contender from back in the party days.
I used to hold my own,
Right?
you could say.
You know, I'm going to give a shout out to my man, Big Chad.
Big Chad.
Drunken Chad.
He was a definite professional partier.
Chad from Blindside. Chad from the Circle Lounge.
Chad
He's-
Nelson, full name.
Exactly. Chad Nelson. He I mean, things in the past, right? What do they call it? The statute of limitations?
Statute of limitations.
Statute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, back in the day, he was the go-to dude with the big car, like Suburban. He would take us all to the bar. He would drink and drive. I don't condone drinking and driving at all.
But he would do it for the benefit of others.
If you're going to drink and drive, you should use your signals, stay within the lanes, go the speed limit, and make sure you don't have any guns or tail lights out. Break one law at a time. But anyway, my point is, Big Chad, he's always a pleasure. He always takes care of people. He actually just recently took care of us in Hawaii when we were out there. Pleasure to party with. He's the dude.
He would drive everybody to Wendover even. Just
Big Chad.
Oh, yeah. He was, I mean, guaranteed we'd meet up at his house.
Go to the bar, and then he'd bring it to Wendover.
Hell yeah.
Well, just like sidebar, I'd like to say we do not condone drinking.
Well, they
driving on
got
the show.
Uber. And
you got Uber now. This is a different era.
Yeah, it's a different
yes,
era. I mean,
yes.
if you're getting a drinking and driving ticket when you could just call them $10, $20 Uber, I mean,
Right. You're fucking up.
you're messing up. big
Yeah, you're
time.
really fucking up. We didn't have Uber back then.
No.
You had to call a cab. There was no cab big enough. Again,
And they'd sometimes even
Don't
close
condone
down.
it,
You just
but
had to
still.
have a sober driver back then, but now you got a permanent sober driver in Uber.
right. I mean, it's like everything. Grain of salt, pinch of caution, whatever it is.
Only break one law at a time.
So I want to dive back into kind of the bookend of your snowboard career. You went out with a bang with your part in Moment of Truth, and that was a great one. Big, not to make it about me, but that was one that had big impact on me. And going back and watching that part, you did like a giant chicane on a step down, which I totally forgot about. You were the first person to drop to board slide on that rail here on the way up the canyon.
Oh, yeah.
That tail block that we mentioned earlier, you unlocked a lot of the switch creeper down the library hubba, hitting the toe jam rail there. Let's just like talk about that part and how it was kind of the bookend to your career.
Right. Yeah. So, it was like the end of my career. And I mean, as far as I was mentally, like, I was getting older. Snowboarding was still the thing that I loved, but going to the industry parties, whatever, like all that other stuff I was kind of over. And then the kids, kids keep getting, new young kids come in. Anyway, I was just in a different vibe, but I knew that I wanted to put out I'm always wanting to put out a good part. Like you're always chasing your best part. Right. And injury sometimes gets in the way. Like I had an ACL surgery and I had bilateral wrist surgeries, and these things slow you down with your confidence, and, you're not shredding all the time. And, was always chasing like, the right style, like, yeah, do stuff switch, but you want to do it switch with like your arms down, looking like you're a regular footer, and chasing that. And that goes away every time you have injury. But so I would just, was focused on that Tech 9 part, and I wanted to put out the best part that I could. And I had a really great year where I had very low injury, maybe partly because I was really into cycling at the same time. So I, physically I could hike all day. I was fit, like someone might be now. But so I just, poured myself into that part and got the tricks I wanted to get the way I wanted to get them. I never like really sat down like I know Mikey would do, or someone where you just feel fully curate it and you're like, these are the spots I want to hit for sure, and I want to get these tricks. Like, I don't even remember how the library ledge came about, but it existed. They'd built it. The library was new. People had hit it, and that was with.
Is this at the university?
This is the library downtown Salt Lake.
Salt Lake, yeah.
Yeah, the nude library.
Yeah.
It's not new anymore, but at that time.
At that time it was new, right? And
Yeah.
that was a new feature, and I was there with you and Cole, and trying to remember.
Which library?
I think Benny maybe Switch 50 did or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. So, but like that stuff, it was probably a spot I wanted to hit, but it was like Stony Buds was like, hey, we'll go hit this. And, that particular one was kind of like, it was like Burning Bridges era, Burning Bridges, FODT, Kingpin. And there was like, I don't know, the local Burning Bridges kids were like bugging me. There was just a like animosity kind of between the crews, even though there was intermingling and friends, and there was this kid Forgash who was like, he was cool, whatever. But I didn't really always care for him. And I remember he had 50-50 creepered that. So like if you look at my part, I switch 50 creeper it, and then I'm like fake yawning in the exit. Because I just felt like, I don't know. Snowboarding is snowboarding. Like I just creeper on it. Doesn't matter if you go forward or backward. You know, it's kind of like riding your snowboard down a ledge or like grooming the lip just right. You just ride your snowboard over it. But that was, I don't know. That was my own little thing that probably no one caught.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there is a lifey you read after. Yeah, lifestyle shot.
Yeah, but I'd like switch 50 and then I'm like coming out of it and I'm just like fake yawn. But I don't know, man. I just, it was a good year.
Four guys caught it?
And I just always wanted to get that shit. I don't know.
He got one-upped.
Yeah, he got super one-upped. But I don't know if he paid attention.
There's another clip we have to talk about in that part that I think about every time anybody that's ever ridden Brighton and you go up the crest lift. At the top, there's a cat track that everybody jumps off of into the lift that is great on a powder day. And you switch back 5 that thing, film from the lift in your part. And it's that one's like, it's cool because we think of you every time we go up crest. It's cool. That's a legendary move.
Yeah, that was just one of those things where it's like you say, it's a really nice hit when
any
you're
given
up there.
powder day, right?
Any given powder day, 6 inches or more, that's going to be go to first run. You want to hit that, and so that was one of those days where I'm like, okay, Cole, it snowed enough. Let's go up. We think we hit that, and then we left. But yeah, I mean, those things weren't like they're like unintentionally intentional, right? So it's like I knew that would be a cool spot, and that's just going to be a clip. I told it to Cole. He's like, "Oh, I don't know," right? It's just that jump at Brighton. But like you say, that spot. It's in your mind, and you're like, "Oh yeah, there it is." Not unlike the drop to rail by the sand pit at the the park and ride on 6200. That wasn't something that I was like, "Oh, I got to hit this." They built that parking lot, and then there was this rail thing there. I think everyone probably looked at it and was like, how do we hit this? And then one day, Captain Stoney, Shane Charlebois, was like, yo, you should come off of there onto the rail. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then that was another Stony Butts moment. I don't know why Shane just gave that one to me because he was still filming for Kingpin, and it was Cole and Ethan that shot it.
Yeah.
Not Charlotte.
The Fava brothers got after it this year.
If you look at the evolution of that part, you do drop board slide. I think years after I did and drop 50. Then Scott Stevens did drop front board. And then Dylan Thompson did drop back 180. And then recently, I don't think it's come out yet, but there's been some things that have happened on it this year that will come out in the fall. So it's just cool to see the evolution of a spot that you unlocked and open the floodgates.
Well, unlocked.
Right. Totally. Yeah. It is interesting, too, because it's that spot's not really great. You're not like, oh, yeah, I got some good tricks for that spot. That spot kind of sucks.
And the road is high, high traffic. And
I had to land, closer to one binding than the other because the board was getting so much flex that you just get, spit off the rail, and you touch the rail for, a minute, and it's impossible to touch it for more. Not even a minute, a second. Yeah, a millisecond.
A hot second.
You're psh, done.
Kiss the rail.
Hot hands.
But just one of those ones, like you say, it's just it's there. Everyone's seen it.
Let's go get it scenario on a snowy day.
But that's a perfect thing for someone to do.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You mentioned earlier that cycling was something that you were able to keep fit while you were filming that part. Now, basically, I want to lean into cycling. But before I do, just as I was talking, I was thinking, did you know, were you okay, I'm officially retired after that part? Or were you kind of, what was the take after Moment of Truth came out? Or was it kind of like a slow wind down?
To be 100% honest, crack out a last part because what I want is that next sponsorship deal to keep me going further. And for whatever reason, I'd finished up my contract with Ride and, I didn't, they didn't renew that contract. And understandably, you could look at someone that's been snowboarding for 10 years and you might say, okay, well, how much more do we want to put into this person? Because it's a business. But so, without the Ride contract, then I was I had my Tech 9 contract and I'd kind of gone this is one of the mistakes that you can avoid as a pro snowboarder is not being under one umbrella too much. The more diversity of sponsors you have, the more chance you have to survive and more people to promote you. You know, I was under Ride head to toe with Tech 9 bindings. I forgot I rode for like Smith or somebody goggles. But anyway, you know, you lose your major sponsor. Now what are you going to do? But so it was good though, because honestly, like I had mentioned earlier, mentally I love snowboarding, but I didn't love the game anymore. Like I wasn't pushing myself to be better than the next. Like I'm like, I'll go do something creative, but I'm not, you know, going for the double cork now. And I don't like the industry. Like I specifically I did choose an industry job, but not in the industry. Like I didn't go be a team manager or anything like that. I went into coaching snowboarding because I wanted to continue my whole life view, I guess, is the balance of work and play. And I don't like to work more than I need. Like, because what am I going to do with money? Yeah, I could buy stuff, whatever. But if I've got money, you know, I'm being progressive in my life, then all the time I'm not working is the most valuable.
It's a nice outlook right there. What am I going to do with money?
Right. I mean, yeah, sure. I could
spend it.
Buy cars. I could buy more property. But if I've got enough that, you know.
Yeah, when's enough when you see these people working crazy hard?
But that's the thing. Like, you might be multimillionaire, but if you don't have time with your family or your friends.
They're enjoyable things.
Then what's the point? Yeah, so I'm like,
if Chris doesn't have time to dirt bike, he's gonna go insane.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
Work hard, play hard.
There's the, you know, the mental health aspect of it all, where I think people get caught in that idea of like, I'm gonna grind. I need to get this paper, like whatever it is. Getting paper is like the dumbest thing I've heard of. I'm gonna get this time. You know, yeah, I'm gonna get some paper too, but the time is the most valuable. So going back to that whole like, you know, was this the end or what was that all about? Like. I was ready and I needed the right catalyst to just be like, okay, I need to go to the next thing, because I was going to be a snowboarder for the rest of my life. If I could, I would just figure out how to, you know, keep doing it. But you have to play the game to a certain degree. At least then you did, you know, you need to go to the industry parties and you need to keep talking to the magazine editors and all of these things. You couldn't just put out your shit on Instagram and it be like your own media thing. So, yeah, and so that's what led my transition, which ended up sort of coming together. Again, maybe it's like the universe, like how I keep saying it, comes together, and so kind of go out on a high note, you know, which is where you should like to end, although I would have milked that titty for a long time.
Well said. That was well articulated and
So
cool. You know, I never knew the story behind that. That was really incredible to hear. And, you know, furthermore, I know you mentioned that you had been cycling a lot, and it seemed like when you got out of snowboarding, you just went all in on cycling.
Yeah. So when I was 14, my mom had taken us to Italy for the summer, and it was like a big bummer because all my friends were skateboarding in town. Like my own buddy's building a mini ramp, like, and I'm in Italy, in Tuscany, in the wine country. So I ended up convinced my mom to work on my dad, and they got me this cheap mountain bike, like it was $350 or something. And I would ride to the next town to do some skateboarding. And then I'd ride 10 more miles to the next town to do some skateboarding, because the wine country where we were at is dirt roads. So that just, you know, there's something about it I liked. And then the next thing I knew, I had the map and I was riding through like the Italian countryside, which is a great place to start riding bikes as a young child, because cycling's super revered there. So cars don't run you over. People don't try to kill you. You know, they just let you cycle. So that was the start of it when I was 14, and mountain biking was exploding then. It was the 80s, you know, later 80s. And so there's something I always liked about the Tour de France. I don't know what it was, but when I would see it, you know, it would be on ABC or whatever, and I'm like, there's something here I like. And so I got into that, and that really the cycling satisfied my need for something that's like not subjective. Because snowboarding for me is subjective. Like, I'm not going to, you know, try to one-up you on a 180. I'm going to put more style on it. But mountain biking, I can be the best. Like, I beat you by 4 minutes. That's done. You know, doesn't matter whose style. Of course, I did it with style, but it's cut and dried. So it satisfied this whole other thing that I had. And I found that, I guess for whatever reason, my body was into it. Like, it was good for me. And when I was in my teens, I was beating local pros that competed nationally. And I basically came to a point where I was 18 and I was like, do you want to chase snowboarding or do you want to chase mountain biking? And I chose snowboarding because it seemed like more fun and was likely the better decision. Although I think I probably would have gotten paid to mountain bike too. And that was in the heyday of mountain biking. But so the cycling has just been in the background for me forever. And when I tore my ACL in 99, I guess that was 2000, that was part of the rehab. It was like riding your bike. And then after 10 years of not riding bikes because I was just snowboarding, I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm into it. So, got back into it a bit. And in the end of my snowboard career, I was racing mountain bikes and road bikes full time during the summer. So I wouldn't go to Hood. I was just like checked out. I'm just racing. Snowboarding's paying for it. I'm going to all the national events, like, kind of like you do with the motocross. Like, you're just out there getting it, going up the levels, checking, expert, next, keep going.
Novice.
Right.
Yeah, we're not.
You're still a novice.
So I have an expert national championship in mountain bike for my age group, which was like 19 to 25, I think it was at the time. And that, it's like an age group national championship, but still that's like the one that I got. And then I almost was a national champion on the cyclocross bike. The cyclocross bike is like, it's kind of like a road bike with knobby tires, similar to what people ride. They call them gravel bikes now. But cyclocross is like a short 1 hour duration race. And it started in Belgium, and they would race in the cow fields during the winter because it's freezing ass. So there's like sections where you have to run through the mud with your bike. And basically it keeps you warm because you're exerting so much energy. But it became a form of racing, and turned out that I really liked that because the short intensity was good for me. These are hour-long races. And anyway, in like 2008 or 2009, I guess it was, in Louisville, Kentucky, I came second in my age group, Masters age group, national race, behind a guy who, unfortunately for me, was he was an elite racer, so professional. He was the top 7 ranked cyclocross racer in the nation for elites that year, but they allowed pro riders to also compete in age group events, which subsequently the following year they didn't.
So you got hosed.
Because I kind of complained about it because like he had national points. He was a paid rider. Like, I'm just a guy who wants a national championship. And anyway, my point is that was the closest I came as far as cyclocross goes. But I did win a national championship as a master in cyclocross. I won some races as an enduro rider. Enduro, like for people that don't know, is kind of like a mountain bike, but a little bit more longer travel. And you will ride like a, say, 30, 40 mile course in a day, but you're only timed on the downhill segments. And so it still requires fitness, but it skews it now toward the skill of the descending. And I used to think downhillers were dumb and only smoked cigarettes and drank beer and there was no physicality to it. And that's true. But when you're racing downhill is still just as physical. You get just as pinned. And there's like, even though the gravity's there, the fastest guy isn't just coasting down the hill, staying off the brakes. But so that really appealed to me, is that whole enduro racing. And I found that like in 2009 when I put the other spandex racing away and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I'm like, I've raced and I won all these things, but all you have to do is be sick for a week and it ruins your whole summer and your training. And it's all like how hard you train and how much you recover and how much food you eat or don't eat. It's all these things. But so I really got into enduro racing and I started wanting to do something here locally, and there weren't any races. So I just decided I was going to start a race. And I started this race called the Wasatch Enduro at the Canyons. And my way I'm wired is like, you're already going to produce a race a local race is only maybe 10% less effort than a national race. You just have to think bigger and ask bigger people and present more. So we instantly made this a national calendar event. It was at the Canyons. There was, hundreds of people participated. There was a concert afterwards, and it just became this thing. And I brought enduro to Utah for my friends. Ended up selling that to a company called MSI. I think they changed their name since then, but they helped me expand it by selling it to them, and we expanded into like an event in Angel Fire in Sun Valley, Idaho, and we did one in Moab. And so kind of created this whole series, which was really cool. Unfortunately, that series has since folded, and so my friends don't have anywhere to enduro anymore as much as they used to. But yeah, so there's just a lot of the cycling is like snowboarding, skateboarding, cycling, and cars.
You ever see that classic photo from Tour de France where it's in like the 50s or 60s, and they're in the middle of the race, and there's three of them just smoking cigs as they're biking? That shit's awesome.
I think they used to think that
it opened your lungs. They thought
opened your lungs and raised your hematocrit levels by smoking.
So mid race, everyone would light up a cig.
Yeah, that's
hanging up in my doctor's office. I was like tight.
All right, it's time to get to a segment of the show we call Hot Takes. First thing we're going to ask is the greatest of all time, the GOAT, or the Michael Jordan, or however you want to frame it to you. But both male and female in snowboarding, who you got?
Right. So this one I thought about for a bit because there's so many different ways you can look at it. But I kind of reframed it to like, who was Michael Jordan, right? Like he was the best at that time, brought everything to another level. Have there been better? Yes. So here's who I got. Sean Palmer is who I got as the GOAT because, you got your Craig Kellys, right? But Sean Palmer was like, Craig Kelly was like the businessman, like the style, the smooth. Sean Palmer was the punk, do what I want to do, in your face, like embodied absolutely. They both embodied everything snowboarding, but I'm just gonna put Palmer there as the GOAT.
Great answer
on the men's side. And
love it.
The female side, again, for the same types of things, right? That have there been better? Yes. But Tina Basic had an incredibly long career. She was in videos that I saw, and then she continued to expand her game as my game came along. Like I had the pleasure of actually meeting her and becoming friends with her and going on snowboard trips and stuff. But she, did so many great things with her career, and it was long, and helped, pioneer for other women who came after, who I would just like to mention, Trisha Burns, Jessica Delpiez, early pioneers, not early pioneers, but like other ladies from my day, like Hillary Mayberry, like other women that were out there doing it, and paving the way while the industry was doing what the industry was doing. Like I love where the industry's at now, recognizing and supporting. And certainly the industry didn't support the women as much as it could have in the past. Like love seeing a woman on the cover, hate seeing token anything. But all these ladies that I mentioned got their dues, and they represented at that time and set the standard.
Amazing. Great. Well, explained answer. Most underrated.
Ooh, most underrated. Yikes. That's like a new one.
This is a new one.
This is for new.
Got his wire crossed over here.
New riders. Whew. I don't even know. I can't even think of who is most underrated. I don't pay enough attention to modern snowboarding.
Even back in the day, somebody that maybe didn't get the shine they deserve.
I got your answer for you. Jason King back in the day.
Bro, I was just going to say Jason King.
He was so sick.
Right, yeah. I was honestly just thinking like of back in the day, someone that nobody hardly knew. He did have a pro model on shot snowboards one season, but yeah.
Style like no other.
Jay King had the ill style. He actually lives up in Jackson Hole now, and you can check him out at King Sushi.
Nice. He's rolling sushi.
Yeah, he owns his own sushi spot up there. He's killing it.
Sick.
Okay, next question, Steel or Pow?
I have to choose.
Well, you can answer it however you want.
Steel or Pow. Yeah, I mean, I don't choose one or the other. I just ride whatever's there. But if I had to choose, I guess I would choose A.M.A.O because just riding steel all the time would just be bony.
Okay. Best style ever.
Best style ever, Devin Walsh. And then I got a female. I'm gonna send the female out to Jill.
Oh yeah,
nice,
good answer.
Jill, what's
Jill Perkins?
Perkins, thank you.
Yep.
Perky.
I was like, I'm gonna give it to Jill Perkins.
Okay, best board graphic ever.
Oh man, I've heard the Radical Rick right from the Matt Cummings. That
Libtech?
one, Libtech. That was pretty popular for me. I had another one that I thought I wrote it down because I was like, man, what are the good ones? Damn, that's the one though that I got.
Radical Rick, great.
Radical Rick was so sick.
Yeah.
Oh, or like the Jeff Brushy. I really like the Jeff Brushy Bones one.
Yeah, the fish.
Yeah, that one's really super good.
Classic.
Okay, pants over or under the high back.
Right. So this one kind of depends, right? Like if you don't have a pro model binding, you should probably put your pants over it. So I always kept mine tucked, like so my name would be showing.
You had a pro model binding bag or pro model binding bag for a little while too.
Yeah.
This won't even fit under the pants.
I got the bag over here on the high back. But yeah, it just depends. If you're wearing Holden pants, you probably got to tuck them in, and if you're wearing Dub, you're probably going on the outside. Sometimes I'll go one over, one under.
You've never, have you?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you caught it. Like, I don't know. I'm a big Seinfeld fan, and I noticed that on the natural selection, I want to say it was like Torstein gets ready to drop in. He's got one tuck, one no tuck, and my buddy is like messaging me. He's like screen grabs it. He's like one tuck, one no tuck.
Mm-hmm.
From like when Jerry and Costanza go and they're like at the hotel and they're like telling Lupe the housemaid like to untuck or not untuck their sheets.
On the bed sheets.
Yeah, one tuck or one no tuck. Anyway.
Perfect. If you go heliboarding with 3 people,
I'm a no tuck personally.
Who are you taking?
No tuck. So I actually would load up E-Stone over here because he's super fun for the banter vibes. I would take Mikey LeBlanc because he's also fun for the banter vibes and he has a great eye. And then I would take J2 so he can go off the kicker before me and I can aim away from his bomb hole.
Perfect.
Great answer.
Yeah.
All right, beaver slap.
That'd be a really dope heli
Beaver slap. Okay, so a couple things about the beaver slap.
Stock beaver slap.
So I like the beaver slap. I'm not sure if people are aware of the history of beaver slap. It has a purpose, which is not just to annoy or slap snow or annoy like the people in line. It's to dislodge the snow from your base plate so that you can put your foot in. So I think beaver slaps are important. And with that, I made an invention that, if you guys want to go in on this with me.
Isn't that a corn in the cob holder?
So it is a corn in the cob holder. It's also like the base plate picker.
Nice.
So you can just have it dangle style. You can pick. This is for people that don't like to beaver slap.
Yeah.
But they do need to clear snow out of their base plate. I realize
I don't know if we can patent that though.
Yeah, that's a
because
Shark
of the
Tank.
corn in the cob people.
Also, a little bit of a liability while snowboarding. I'm just going to go ahead.
Well, it's like a steez check, right? So if it hits you in the face, your steez is whack and your hands are moving too much.
Yep.
If it's a hard plastic though, it could probably still cut through the snow and not puncture your eyeball.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I went to the DI and I put
What do
this
you
together.
think?
That's dope.
What do you think Mr. Wonderful would say on Shark Tank, Buds?
I think he would say
you think you'd
because
invest?
it's
Do you
a
think
corn in the cob patented item already that we can't move forward with it.
Oh, really?
I am out on that one.
I'd say that he'd probably evaluate his company at about $10 million, and he'd be willing to offer 10%, and Mr. Wonderful would take it.
Seriously. Again, this is a prototype. I don't have a 3D prototype.
Amazing. Okay, another one we got to talk, edge drag. You in the parking lot, you drag an edge?
Bro.
I've seen him drag edge.
Oh, is he?
I drag so much edge, but I recognize the cringe factor in that, like, fingers on the chalkboard. Some people don't want to hear it. So again.
Oh, you got a new invention for that too.
So I got an invention. This is this could either be called
wow, dude.
This is either the Dragon Stee Roller or I forgot what the other one was. Maybe it's like a clip dragger. But so obviously you've got a a clip, right?
Clamp.
A rubber tipped clamp with this wheel that I mounted to it. And so when you clip it on your board, it rolls back and forth. So you can drag across the concrete without having to.
I think you might be onto something.
I think
with that one.
I'm in on this one for sure.
Yeah. Would you like to invest, Buds?
Yeah, I would like to invest.
Again, this one, it's a little big. I don't have a 3D printer, but you can imagine this scaled down. You just clip it on your waist belt. Yeah,
it's almost like a board caddy.
Gadget
and then on top of it,
caddy.
it's got a Tech 9 washer on it.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Those will be available at bombhole.com. Use promo code OllieG for 45% off.
Right.
And this wheel's already worn down too. You've used this. You've tried it.
Yeah.
Dude, this is great. I'm in. It's got 4-wheel drive capabilities.
Oh,
for the
yeah.
snow,
It's
dude.
got tread on there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
tread.
got serious tread.
This is what I think about when
These
I
are
watch
good,
the bomb
good
hole.
inventions. He's got a board caddy.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Those are looking like some BFG all-terrains right
Yeah.
there. Heavy tread.
This
But
is
yes,
dope.
I do like to drag my board through the parking lot.
You got any more inventions over there?
No, just these ones.
That was great.
Well, no more dragging needed here. Last one of hot takes. Worst trend. What do you got?
Let's see. Worst trend. I already kind of touched on this one earlier. So it was like, for me, the worst trend is just like that social media mentality, the cancel culture, just where people feel that they want to put out something negative instead of putting out something positive. Yeah.
Great answer. Now, we got to ask, have you ever hit a smelling salt before?
No.
Well, we got a fresh can, I think, right in front of you here. Are you interested in smacking a smelling salt?
It wouldn't be the bomb hole without whacking some salts. I know that
We're re-up, so we kind of, you get a salt. We used to have to really
We used to have to share this for free.
Right.
but now it's
I
everybody
remember
gets
you
a
guys
salt.
were sharing them around. You guys are crazy.
Yep.
So what's
So squeeze it, and then you can kind of like work it up to your nose, like
where the white spot is?
yeah, so right in the middle. So then,
Yeah.
you went in. You went in.
Woo. Wow.
It's not that bad, honestly.
Oh,
It's not that bad.
yeah, it's good.
Wow.
Those were restocked. Run through a wall smelling salts are available at bombhole.com. How you feeling, buds?
I'm feeling alive.
Are you ready to run through some?
I'm feeling
sheetrock?
perky over here. You know what I mean?
Nice, love that.
Yeah, you guys are crazy. I never inhaled.
You didn't even inhale?
Bro, I'm the guy that's gonna throw the shots over his shoulder. I just
Oh, you did a
exhale.
fake. You did a fake.
You faked it?
I'll
faked
fake
it.
I think we should hold him down and make him sniff.
Yeah,
one.
we should.
Shots over the shoulder, son.
I seen you do shots over the shoulder too.
Right?
It's a good move for anyone.
It is.
I
Do
It
you
just
ever do
looks-
that now that you don't drink?
It looks too
I've never
brutal.
done it.
Like
I've never
accept it and just
I've never done it. I should though.
Yeah, it's the best.
be careful who's standing behind you. That's
Yeah,
my only advice.
totally.
Yeah. Another good one is no one's ever paying attention. After you get it, you just tip it down and dump it on the floor and then shoot it.
I'll just do a
Yeah, I
a
do that.
pseudo
These
shooter.
are pro tips.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Sake every time.
every time.
Wow, I like that. Yeah, they're like, you back on the wagon? Yep.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom. Shots.
Well, what's next for Ollie G?
Oh man, I like that you asked that. Actually, so I love to dabble in different things and passion. Like I get into these passion projects all the time, and A.M.A.O. that we have over here is a skateboard brand that I've been doing for a few years now, and actually started it with my buddy Mikey, and unfortunately, Mikey passed shortly after Twos passed away. He had pancreatic cancer that was diagnosed too late. So, note to all your friends, if you feel a little weird, maybe get yourself checked out, because he just felt mildly weird.
Didn't even feel that bad.
Yeah, I think he had some discomfort with stomach and stuff. And pancreatic is something where it doesn't show itself until it hits the liver, I guess. So yeah, he was diagnosed like 4 months to live. And so we had started this company together because we were skating a lot, and you're going through boards all the time. Even buying them at shop prices is not cheap enough. So we were like, okay, well, we know some companies, we'll get some boards pressed. And again, passion and me thinking just, I'm like, why do something local when you can do something global? Not that our company's global, but instead of just making boards for us, we branded them. We put an Instagram page together and start selling them at retail. And so A.M.A.O. is, it's the first initial of each of Mikey's kids' names. Asher, Milo, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank now. Asher, Milo, Oliver, and Annabelle, out of order, but A.M.A.O. And so that's the brand. And what we do is we collab, or I collab with local artists like Sweet Needles, or I'm just going to drop some Instagram handles like Hills Art, Astray Art. And I work with these local artists, and I'll lay their stuff up on a board. Then we'll do like a pre-sale and have people buy in. That kind of helps us with production. And then, we'll do something special like those ones that they bought directly from the artist. We'll have like a signature, and then the rest of them go into retail at normal retail pricing. And so it's just kind of a strategy of like low overhead, minimal risk, but still being able to do something really cool and get an artist out there. And it's just been a fun project. Like I say sponsor, but we flow decks to like some local people, like again, Instagram handle like Lena Beast or my buddy Jaja Jambox, or various local kids. And it's just fun because I like skateboarding. I like art, but I'm not an artist as much as I'm more like a curator or an art director.
Curator, that's tight.
Yeah, but I have a lot of fun with it. We have an Instagram, A.M.A.O. Skateboard Co. on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on, the web as well. And actually, I'd love to pop up a couple boards just to show what we do.
Yeah, do it. Go grab them.
Like this is the first board that we did, which has Mikey on it, and it's, as you can see, you guys, it's just out by Tooele. We were skating this full pipe. It's a cool photo of him just standing there. And Sweet Needles did the frame on it, and this just kind of set off the company. So after he passed, I did this commemorative board, sold it, pre-sale, gave basically the profits back to the family. Not that it was a ton of money, but then kept the production money and kept rolling it over. And so Mikey, the commemorative board, helped launch it. And then, as you can see, just other ones. This one's fun. This one is the Ass Face Dickerson. This is a local lady, Hills Art. You can find her on Instagram. See, he's got an ass face, and he's got a little dick. His friends call him Frank, though.
It's a tight graphic right there.
And then this one we did really well with. So my buddy James, Jaja Jambox on Instagram, he took this photo with his phone. And I was just messing around and laid it up on a deck, and I'm like, that looks pretty cool. And D's is just such a staple of Salt Lake City that there's like people were out of the woodwork for this one. People bought it to collect it, and people are like, oh, I got a blog, I need to have that. I actually even got hit up. It was like the cousin or the nephew of the guy who's married to the woman that owns D's. And
is D's a one-off?
No, there's a couple of them.
There is.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. And so he hit me up, he DM'd me, and he's like, oh, I got to get these. My wife owns D's. So I went over to this guy's cabinet shop where he makes cabinets and sold him 2 D's decks for his kids for Christmas, full pop. Cool. And I'm just like, here you go, man, full pop. But yeah, so it's just fun. And I do have a new graphic in the works that's going to be another heater like the D's. It's just fun.
It's cool because that's the angle of D's as you're driving by, basically.
Yeah, it's basically shot from the middle of the street.
Yeah, from the car, I'd imagine. There's a little movement on it, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yep. It was just workable as far as like stretch and movement. And
being a phone photo. It's a good-looking printed phone photo. That's why photographers are going out of business left and right.
And then the Sweet Needles. The Sweet Needles just hit hard.
Classic.
Because it's classic. And then I conceptualized this one myself, which is, your basic go-to social media pattern play on something that exists.
Yep. Twitter rip.
Yep. Twitter rip.
The old Twitter rip.
So, that's kind of these are the passion projects. Besides the skateboarding, I've been delving back into my car stuff lately. Finally, that my kids are grown up enough. There's the freedom of time and money, and I just have a deep passion for cars. So lately I've been, buying and selling and fixing them up. And so I'm always buying a car that's like as I mentioned before, like completely devalued or undervalued and needs work that I can do, and that's like my hobby. And part of that is I've started doing like this whole like a YouTube thing. So I've got this YouTube called Afflicted, and weekly I'm just dropping episodes.
You drop them weekly?
Yeah, weekly.
It's a heavy load.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And I've just like I won't break down how I do it, but I've just taken an approach of like consistency, low impact as far as the whole capture thing, and I just have so many friends with cool cars, and I'm always doing car stuff that most of it is like a review of a car. I'll go see someone's car, drive it, but sometimes I'll go to like my buddy's sprinter place where they build out sprinters and like do a review of that, or go to the Audi place, the 2 Bennett Audi Motive that built my Audi, and go see everything they're doing. Again, it's passion stuff. If it turns into something and I make money on YouTube, cool. If not,
where can people see this on YouTube?
So on YouTube, it's Afflicted, just as it sounds. And yeah, you find me right on YouTube.
You got a social for that too?
Episode every Wednesday. So today I dropped an episode.
Today, yeah.
Yep.
Get your bomb hole. Get a little
Afflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm basically following like the bomb hole pattern. It's like drop it consistency Wednesdays. I even stole like on my social media. I do like the sort of clip intro. So on social, it's the highlights. Just
Smart.
Those clips where it's like the car getting rad or the person saying something funny to just draw people in. Because when I saw what you guys were doing, it made so much sense. And I'm like, oh yeah, when I do it, I'm going to implement that. So yeah, so people can find that every Wednesday. And I try to make it like, it's not super car nerdy. Like I know a lot, but a lot of these cars are cars that, I don't know everything. Like I reviewed my buddy's Miata. It's like not as much about the Miata as it is the driving of the Miata and, the people involved. And so I try to make it something that even if you didn't love cars specifically, if you kind of liked my personality, you would be entertained. And that's
That's dope.
That's what I'm doing.
Solid.
Yeah. That's my
amazing.
My passions.
I love to see the passion. It seems like you get into something and you go all in and you're deep. Excited about it. And I really liked what you said about, time, the value of time over the value of money. I thought that really resonated with me.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, if I would say anything about that, it's like that time is so valuable that people should try to value your time more than your work. But then also, you should throw yourself into your work and your passions 100%, I think, because like you've said before, the moto quote is like, you can't get fast in the cast or whatever, live to ride another day. Or you also, if you can't win if you don't try. Mm-hmm. And I think probably more people should chase their passions, but also know when to bail. Like I was doing a clothing company a year ago and I was so excited doing this clothing company and, maybe someday I'm going to go on the bomb hole and it's going to help launch it. But then along the way, like my partner and I had, we got distracted and it lost momentum and it wasn't headed the direction I wanted. So we just pulled the plug, but we're like, we're going to go all in for a year.
You got to know when to pull the plug, though.
Well, in the words of Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them. But
right,
it's true.
Well, so true. I mean, you got to persevere, but perseverance for nothing.
It's funny. I found out that wasn't a Kenny Rogers quote.
I thought that was Kenny Rogers.
It's somebody else. My wife corrected me recently.
You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I could swear it's a Kenny Rogers song.
That's from the Kenny Rogers song, though.
Yeah, the Kenny Rogers song. Yeah, Kenny Rogers wrote that.
I was thinking of a different one.
Gambling.
Yeah, it's about gambling.
Don't even start going.
Don't count your money at the table.
I don't think Kenny Rogers sings The Gambler, though.
Sing it. Google. I almost guarantee it's Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to say Kenny Loggins, but I know that's not right.
Right now, Kenny Loggins.
Oh no, we were saying Kenny Loggins maybe on one trip. That's what it was. We were totally wrong.
You're trying to make a false Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those happen all the time.
But
well, that's what it was on a trip. We kept saying
Kenny Loggins. So going back to what you said there too, the if we're just throwing away around cliche life advice like it's a fucking nothing right now, but it is so true that the fear of failure is what stops a lot of people, and it's like you gotta, if you don't try you can't fail, but realizing that trying something and it not working out is great. It's better to try and have it not work out than just, think about what would have happened, right? That's worse.
Right. Well, you're almost shooting yourself in the foot because the failure is where the growth is.
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll hear like Elon Musk or anyone like that will tell you, you fail a lot. Yeah. I mean, we all know that snowboarding, photography, whatever it is, you fail and you learn, and it is. I guess that's the beautiful and the sad thing about society is that so many people are afraid to fail, or it's put in such a bad light, but you don't get anywhere if you don't try.
Yeah, those failures stick with you as learning moments, and
right,
and they're good for you.
I was thinking about how rad that is and what we do. I was watching raw clips on Thrasher of a skateboard part, and the skater, it was Spanky, and he kept going back, and you'd see him in 3 different outfits trying a trick. So he'd try it for like a day, didn't get it, go back, different outfit, try it a day, didn't get it. Maybe 4, you'd see like 4 different outfits till you finally land it. And like, how amazing is it that what we do is you're like gonna go back to some street spot in the middle of some shitty town that nobody else in the world even sees as a spot and try some trick, for fucking 16 hours or however many 3-4 hour battles somebody puts in to get a 10-second clip. Like if that doesn't teach you something good about life, like, with snowboarding and skating, like, well, it's great life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's why you've seen so many snowboarder, skateboarder, action sports athletes move from their sports into, key marketing positions within the industry or whatever it may be, because you do learn that lesson in a very different way that's, it's so relevant, but you don't even realize it when you're learning it because you're just like, oh, I hit my shins 1,000 times doing the skateboard trick, or, I've tried this cork so many times, and you don't even realize you're getting that lesson. And it's like everything you could ever need for your life.
Good stuff.
Facts.
Life lessons from skating and snowboarding.
Seriously.
Well, man, Ollie, I think it's been a good conversation. Where can people find you on the internet if they want to connect?
Right, you want to find me? I'm the Real Ollie G Show on all social media. I'm on, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Don't go to my YouTube, though. Go to my Auto-Afflicted YouTube and subscribe over there. Please, please.
All right, before we wrap this thing up, we always like to ask our guests, you want to throw out any thank yous?
Yeah. Try to keep it short, but obviously, I kind of see this as like my last chance to thank people out in the bigger world of snowboarding. Thanks to you guys. So, I want to give a shout out to my mom, of course, because she helped me to be who I am. And of course, shout out to my wife, because who can do it without their significant other? And, my wife is just the best. So, I couldn't do it without her. And then, I want to give a shout out to basically everyone out there, I'm not even going to say fans, but like the people that had supported, whether they, just liked my snowboarding or they've reached out on social media. I've had so many great contacts with people thanks to social media that, people from just around the world. And so I just want to thank all those people for their friendship and their support of my snowboarding and, snowboarding in general. And then just the early year kickoff. So I got to give shouts to Dan Sullivan, who we talked about earlier, who was like the first guy to put me on with a discounted snowboard. Chris Mask from OSIN, all the OSIN people. I want to thank, of course, all my photographer and video friends like Ethan and Cole and Whitey and Andy Wright, Blotto, anyone that took a photo of me and helped me get to where I went. I just wanted to thank everyone for that, and just, everyone out there for the journey. And thank you to you guys. I know it seems kind of like big and generalized, but I don't know.
Well, those are good.
Spread good vibes, right?
Yeah.
Love to everybody.
Spread good vibes. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, Ollie. And again, thank you so much to everybody that supports the show, whether they buy merch, they subscribe to Patreon, subscribe to our channel, listen on podcast apps. All you guys rule. We really appreciate you guys. So that being said, over and out from the bomb hole. We'll see you next week.
Peace.